Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What is up, DB?
How are things?
Oh, we're doing all right.
I'm a little off my routine.
Off kilter.
So I'm just like I'm getting back in.
What is a kilter?
I don't know. I don't even know where that came from.
You've heard that phrase though, right? I'm a little off kilter.
I'm a little off kilter.
Yeah.
I don't know what kilter is. Kilter must be like a standard baseline.
Kilter. I barely know her.
A long.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's not what I said. It's not go bringing back old stuff. All right.
That's my bad. All right. That's too early for that. It's my bad.
Man.
We're going to reel it back in. Gonna reel it on in.
Your boy's still traumatized from
how long ago was that?
My terrible daughter. So it was when Dante Stallworth had the vehicular.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
So it's been some years.
Because that's about the same year as when Vic went away. So that's like 07.
It's a long time ago.
It's a long time ago.
And I'm
sorry for bringing up old stuff.
I uttered those famous words back when College World Series was at Rosenblatt.
Oh yeah, so it's definitely pre-11.
Yeah, but we're not.
Back in the day.
We're not doing that again.
No. So I don't know. So Zoe was giving you a hard time?
Yeah, man. This little girl, her mom decided it'd be a good idea to go get a coffee.
Listen, sometimes you need a little coffee.
Yeah, she might be the worst in the continental U.S. with extrapolating time. From here to West Side, she may say, "I'll be there in 5 minutes." That's not
5 minutes. That's not 5 minutes from here to West Side.
So her hair is braided up, and she's got to get it in the bath, and I got to get her out of the bath, and I normally don't do that. I start her bath water, but then I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about a girl that was doing cartwheels yesterday before I even left in the living room.
Yeah.
She's just crazy. And so she's like, "Dad, Mom puts my hair up." And I was like, "They're already in braids. Like, what's the big deal?" So I just grabbed those two little things and I put a little rubber band around her, and it looked ridiculous. She looked at me like, "This dude's an idiot."
So the look that you imitated her making to you is also the look that you imitate that I make to you when you feel like I'm being condescending.
Yeah. They're about the same. And I also woke up to so college football classics like tweeted at me.
Oh, yeah?
And I have like 3,500, not really. It's like a couple of hundred notifications.
Really?
Which doesn't happen typically overnight.
Yeah. Unless something happens.
News breaks,
yeah.
Right? And there's apparently lots of Arizona State fans reveling in the fact that they beat our brains in 96. It was incredible. I'm like, wow. I woke up to Jake Plummer, and so not only do I remember that game vividly because we took it on the chin and they ran through our warm-ups, and I was super pissed, especially as a captain. But I was playing in that game with a broken rib.
Oof.
It happened in game.
Oh, okay.
I had a super long kickoff return right before the half, and I hurdled a guy. Again, your feet are made for walking. Keep them on the ground. But anyway, I had to hurdle a dude, and I had the ball tucked in.
Is that where your hatred for hurdling comes from, is busting your rib?
Okay. I'm traumatized from Rob Zadiska picking on me about not needing to dive over the pile in 94 against UCLA. But I mean, who's remembering? It's not permanently emblazoned. I can hear this dude chastising me, and he's a great troll. Like, he's
super dry.
Yeah. But he's witty. He's funny.
Yeah, but it's like his tone is not changing.
Yeah. You have to hang in there for the punchline, but he's funny. And I don't know, man. So anyway.
They're hurling over Arizona State.
Yeah, and I'm mad because I do think some guys are kind of being babies. Like, legit babies.
On your team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
I'm just clarifying.
I'm not gonna spill the kids call it spilling the tea or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No ginseng green tea or whatever it is.
I like a green tea every now and then.
Yeah, not doing that. By the way, I got a coach because Kosamanji likes to work, so we took a break on Saturday to go get drinks at the gas station. First time ever in 20 years of high school coaching that somebody sent me on a beverage run at 10 a.m. and it was for unsweetened tea. I looked over my shoulder and I was like, I don't have the heart to say it to him. But unsweetened tea. I mean, to each his own, though. Whatever.
You gotta put something in there.
And he's my dude. He's on the other end of the headsets, and so he has to be upstairs.
Yeah. So
you have to be a very good person. Yeah, because I'm horrible. So anyway, like that, and I had a carry earlier in the third quarter because they were mad at him on. I don't think we weren't really taking care of the ball. So I have this nice run. It's about a 6-7 yard run, and man, I found myself being such a gump. Like I had this like twinge of pain. I didn't even really get hit. Like a guy submarined me. I was like, ugh.
You just like land on it,
and the ball came out.
Oh,
you're like fumble. Like who fumbles after like an 8 yard gain? It was just a nice little small simple run. Just take care of the ball, DB.
Yeah.
Your boy couldn't handle that either.
3-point, like you're carrying Biggie around.
Yeah, it hurt. So I remember playing.
Did you like land on the ball or what happened?
Oh, on the kickoff return? Yeah. It was like, and Doc Dugas and a couple of the guys were like, "Can you go?" I was like, "Yeah."
As long as you don't need me to talk to anybody.
So for some reason, this thing was on social media last night.
Yeah.
And I mean, who the original tweet had me, Jake Plummer, AG, Scott Frost, and somebody else. Maybe
they like tagged them all.
Yeah, Keith Poole. Keith Poole.
You remember? I mean,
that dude worked out on us.
Have you seen?
Nobody knew those dudes were good except them. Yeah, they're all in the league like a year later.
100%.
I was like, damn, this guy's pretty good.
They low key, played in the Rose Bowl that year. Like
we had no idea.
No, nobody did because
we're too busy whining about having to have to be on the field for a late practice.
Well, because
we didn't do our walkthrough till like 9:30.
You beat their head in like 70-6 or something the previous year.
Oh yeah, they were pissed.
So nobody knew they were good.
Yeah, they got in our cakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that was also. Have you seen Jake the Snake lately?
Yeah, I'm a huge. So
that dude's just living off the reservation.
Yeah,
he's way out there.
I'm a big Plummer guy.
Yeah,
like
he's really good. Like really. Good.
So you know why I liked him? This is dumb, but it's me. So go figure. He gave again a guy that gets 0 cares.
Yes, still does not.
Yeah,
he's out there like growing mushrooms now.
Yeah,
barefoot, just does what he does.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I read like a big article on him a couple years ago. He's just doing his own, and like good for him.
I think it has something to do with being Jake the Snake, because the other Jake the Snake is off the reservation too.
Really?
Still with us, right, Shane?
Yeah, he's still doing
Diamond Dallas Page. We had him on in my former life once, and
DDP
brought him back to the good side. I'm a big Jake the Snake Roberts guy too.
Yeah.
And he left the reservation as well. I don't. Can we say that it's 2024?
I think I meant off the grid. Like,
okay, let's do off the grid.
Because that's what I meant with Plummer. Because he's kind of like disconnected. From society.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Even though we have a guy in office now that'll probably free us up to say whatever we want, I don't feel comfortable yet until somebody else goes first.
Well, I'm Indian, so I can say it.
Wow, not that.
Wrong kind? Oh, my bad. I get confused sometimes. Well, I was born in the Midwest, so, it gets confusing. No? Jake Plummer is a good ball player, though. I actually really liked, weirdly.
Happy birthday to my man Sawyer. It's his birthday today.
Thomasek.
Yeah. How do you know?
Because Jay texts us, and she
don't listen to her. I don't even don't listen.
So
to that
she
lady.
Puts it out phonetically, and I go, "Is that a last name, or did you sit on your phone?"
She thought I was
didn't
gonna
know
say
what.
She Thomasek. Blip, 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 blip. I don't even. So she knows not to talk to me.
You're on that text.
I haven't even seen it.
He's Sawyer's a good little route runner though.
Yeah, Sawyer's fantastic.
Good little, we're playing some beach football over the summer.
His dad is super neurotic, so
that might have been Labor Day.
This like workout facility in the garage.
Yeah,
which is like most people's homes.
Yeah,
it has like this huge rope. So dude like climbs. He's 3rd grade.
Yeah,
and he like climbs the rope. He's who had the meltdown over the Chiefs game
Yeah.
until
they blocked
the field goal. And then he had tears of joy. So happy birthday.
his-
Dude, he got donut holes this morning.
Ooh,
Are you a donut hole guy?
No.
I'm not either.
I'll like a donut. Like I like a donut every once in a while.
Yeah, when I had an affinity for Canada a long time ago, they had these they had Tim Hortons.
Oh, the blueberry cake donuts?
And so they had these blueberry Timbits that were like
pretty good.
Yeah, probably like legalized crack.
Well, everything's legal now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Depending on what part of the country you're in.
That's a good point.
If you get a prescription card, you could probably get them here in Omaha.
Hey, how do I get one of those?
I don't think they're set up yet, but I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Here's my question,
So
right?
anyway, my man's sort of like, he's like a little muscle head.
Yeah, he's like a little pocket Hercules.
Yeah. So I like screenshot one of the snaps that has his facial expression on there. Did I ever show it to you?
I don't think
This
so.
is terrible radio, but this is how much I love this dude. So he's having a meltdown over the Chiefs game. And he's a tough guy, super prideful, wasn't really vibing. And he's like, look at this look. This dude is traumatized.
Oh, yeah. I see the tears on his face still.
Yeah. So he was mad at moms for doing the picture.
Taking the picture. Yeah, that's a
Well, they
mom.
had just called timeout to set up for the field
Don't
goal.
take a picture of me right now.
And when I tell you, dude is like a super Chiefs fan, he's like a super Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
But you're winning.
And
They weren't winning
then
at the
she
time,
sent
Shane.
one like 2 seconds later after they blocked it.
He's like, all good?
And Amber's like, are you crying tears of joy? And he said, See, that's when it's fun to be a fan as a kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's fun.
It is
Like,
fun.
there's going to be some kids that watched Creighton last night and they're going to be like, oh, my God, these guys are unbelievable.
This
I'm
is
only 6. This is all I know.
best team I've ever seen in my life.
50.
It's like kids. It was like kids my age grew up watching Nebraska football. Honestly.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we've been getting into this lately.
Yeah.
You always mess with me about carrying on with people that don't apparently have my best interests at heart, which isn't not entirely.
I'm not totally wrong, but yeah.
Entirely. I had a great talk with one of my coaches yesterday about that. But anyway, say, yeah, man, your partner just wears you out over that, but he's kind of right. I'm like, actually, he's kind of not. The cheese reference was great. The bad sandwich and getting like a good piece of cheese. And you're like, oh, the sandwich isn't bad. I'm a glass half full guy, Ravi.
No, I appreciate that about
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I do.
No, you don't.
But it worries me a little.
I don't appreciate it at all.
No, I appreciate that you look for the best in people, but it does worry me a little bit because
Whatever.
you can get burned. You
Oh,
know.
yeah. Have you not looked at my skin lately? I'm scorched. So, speaking of which,
Yeah.
So my guy Blake,
Mhm.
I have an affinity for Blake.
Yep.
Blake's never played before, but
Okay.
he's very good with data and processing, and he does have a good football mind. So we were talking about, because the last couple of days people like the shows kind of deep, going about into the psyche of the move.
Mhm.
What are some good, some positives, whatever. And so he sent one last night. And it gave me pause. And I didn't go in, but I did. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the disconnect. I totally get the disconnect. And this is for there's a lot of people in my messages that are kind of like this, but I figured out last night what the gem is.
Ooh. Okay.
I do. So you got to tell me what you think about this.
Mhm.
So he sent me some data on the Chiefs, right? Winning, close games, whatever. It was charts. And he goes, and to the point about the Chiefs, there's some truth to winners win and losers lose. But with a big enough sample size, the data doesn't lie. As that relates to the Huskers, it feels like you're going pretty hard on the folks who were skeptical after a 5-1 start. The data
Mhm.
or data suggested we weren't as good as our record, and really reality was going to hit once the schedule got harder. And what we've seen is a regression from some already alarming data coupled with a tougher schedule. I'm not sure why that warrants you and Ravi suggesting folks were skeptical after 5-1 were baseless. Nothing in there is false, right? That's fine. right?
I wouldn't say baseless. I would say overreacting, but sure.
Yeah, whatever. So I didn't even get into the semantics.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I responded. I'm not that hard on folks that were skeptical after being 5-1. I'm talking to the folks. It's blah, 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 blah. It's a lot. And I'm trying to get it in a little bit of time while I'm looking at the clock. I said I'm not that skeptical on folks that were 5-1. My point was I wanted the staff to have enough conviction to do what they do after starting 5-1.
Sure.
Because I've said 15,000 times, not really interested in necessarily how you fan. I'm talking to Nebraska's staff because I've seen this before. So you better thensilate now because this is what it is. And I said, you listen from your perspective based on how you feel. That's not how I talk.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah, you have a filter already. Yeah.
I'm not afforded that luxury.
Yeah.
That's what I told him. I'm not. Because if I did that, I'd just go in every day.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
I said I try to be objective and allow you to do your own thinking. I said if your synopsis was that I was being hard and thinking about the impending doom and gloom, then you're not listening. My vantage point was from the what the coaches had to do to be successful. Right? I mean, you're vibing with me so far.
Yeah.
I said you can't know, you can know in your heart of hearts that you're right. And I said if you were a parent, you can know in your heart of hearts, you think, man, this physics test is going to kick little Devin's ass, right? But as a parent, you're like, I'm going to equip him. I hope my teacher equips him with the skills necessary for him to give it his all. I'm not going to speak the doom and gloom into existence, even though I know he's a D student, right? Yeah. I don't want him going into every exam understanding that he's a D student. The disconnect, and this is where the magic happens. See, fans and media are afforded the luxury or the right to just look at it from that perspective. This is how I feel. This is what I see. This is how it's going to end. Teachers, coaches, CEOs, they're not afforded that luxury because you're in real-time mode where you have to make real-time decisions. And I said, that's part of the problem is that's why we do what we do and say what we say, and then we want to beat our chest and say, see, I was right. I was right. That's nobody's really debating that. The problem is, or the real trick is, what are you doing? What is the other person that you're pigeonholing into failure doing in the meantime to not fail? Like that's the whole game.
Yeah,
that is the whole trick. If data and trends always dictated outcomes, no one would coach, no one would teach. They wouldn't. They wouldn't, right? Inflation is up a ton. Interest rates are up a ton. You can, oh man, this country, hell in a handbasket, this, that, and the other. Well, people in positions of leadership, do you know what they have to do? They have to learn how to function within the constraints of what the data is telling them. We just can't sit here and be like, oh man, the culture sucks, man. Hey man, we got to function. Like that's how I talk. That's the vantage point.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care that people were poking holes at 5-1. What I wanted was some buffer for the coaches because you could see it coming.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not built for conflict or pushback, even when other places it's been good before. I wanted some cushion. Sure. I've seen this thing swallow people up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really the discussion. It's not, the Denny's of the world and these people, like they can be right at the end of the day. I'm just not going to revel in misery.
So there's a couple things here that I think happen. And
And Blake, to his credit, and this is what you're going to be like, dude, why you mess with this dude?
This is your piece of cheese. I'm waiting for it.
No, he's like, hey, that's a good point. Like I can definitely see
which
that.
I appreciate, right? Because he's like, hey, this is how I feel. You're like, hey, this is how I approach it.
That's why I ride with him.
And then he's like, oh, I get it.
That's why I ride with him.
Yeah, because there's some self-awareness there, and I appreciate that.
I can ride, and all these things are happening real time.
So there's a couple things here. Number one,
So he's more than a piece of cheese. He's actually got some good protein.
Yeah, there's at least some.
Because he wasn't really wrong per se with the initial
that one. There you go.
Yeah.
There's a couple things here that I think happened. Number one is I approached that conversation differently than you did, as I approach it differently than people that listen to the show and fans.
Because I mean, he's representing the pushback.
Some of it,
right?
Some of it.
He sounds just like Denny.
He represents some of the pushback. There's a couple things there. I think you sometimes get lumped in with my takes.
Oh, I know, 100%.
And so so people attribute
but I'm not. But I'm not selling. But I'm not doing that.
No, I know, but I think that's part of the reason some people talk to you the way they do is because they hear me.
I know.
And they assume you endorse.
Yeah, they want me to check you
or whatever,
or say what I. Yeah, I get it.
And so that's part of it.
I've dealt with that since anytime you have a
co-host,
co-host,
partner, whatever. Yeah,
like I've dealt with that.
So that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
And the other part.
I appreciate you saying that though. Talk about self-awareness.
Oh yeah, I'm totally aware.
But I'm riding for the brand too, though.
Yeah, and I also think like we come from things from two different, very, very different perspectives, right? Your background's much different than mine, especially with football, and so. I will say one thing that the data does not represent, and this is one of the things that I kept talking about, is the data doesn't represent lack of execution, right? The data doesn't represent guys being open and them not getting the ball. The data doesn't represent that.
Yeah.
But here's another thing the data does represent that people happen to ignore. Nebraska's been one of the better teams in the country at moving the ball, right? That's part of offense, right? Tend to have to move the ball to score. Now, just because you move the ball doesn't mean you're going to score. Nebraska's been one of the worst teams in the country at actually scoring, so I get that.
Yeah.
But you can't sit here and tell me that the offense is wholly broken when they're one of the better teams in the country. I think they're top 20%, so that's, what is that, out of 130? You're like the top 30 team in moving the football, getting inside the other team's 40, right? So you can't sit here and tell me that the data says, oh, the offense, nothing works, when that is also true.
And you can't think like that.
Right. So that's part of it. And I'll get to the next part coming up here because there's a part of me that I do want to push back on this narrative that we rebuked people who were skeptical.
Oh, I know. I did.
But
I didn't want to get in that wasn't the gist of it, so I didn't want to get in the weeds.
I am going to get in the weeds because I'm a petty king. Coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and if you're driving to work, make sure you've got your seat belt buckled. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. The sun's in kind of like a weird spot this morning, too, so if you're heading, was that west? No.
That would be
east. If you're heading east.
Wow.
Well, it took me a second. I was like, that's east. I was like, wait, does it rise in the east and set in the west? Yeah. So if you're driving downtown, be careful. That sun's in that kind of weird spot where it's like right in your eyeballs. So make sure you're being safe out there. This message from the
NDOT. Let's be safe out there.
Highway Safety Office. So I wanted to kind of revisit.
Why, Ravi?
Because
okay, first of all, can I just ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
Do you think I'm wasting constructive energy?
Not on Blake. Blake seems all right.
Yeah.
Like, I think Blake is a reasonable guy you can have a conversation with.
Yeah, so you know what? I left this out, but it's kind of like the mayor. Like, why do I like Joel? Well, I like Joel for a lot of reasons, but
Joel is snarky, but he's usually reasonable.
So it's not just that, because even reasonable.
That's why I don't mind Joel.
Even reasonable implies that it has to be on my terms.
Yeah. If I'm gonna have a conversation with you, it kind of does, but
not necessarily for me, because when you do enough conflict resolution, like it's not always gonna be on your terms. You need like this, especially if there are lots of people involved. Like if you're coaching 60 kids, or you're in a classroom, or you're overseeing a Title I program, or whatever, right? There has to be. So the thing that I like, and Blake said it at the very, he said it in the middle of his response. He's like, "Man, I understand. I can see your point." And I was listening when you said you changed. When I changed, he's basically saying, hey, when you thought Sat was in trouble.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's kind of low-key saying, well, you could see this coming.
Sure.
You just were hoping for the best.
Yeah.
That's what he's intimating.
Which is very like you.
Which is 100% true.
I remember you did this with Frost. I was sitting here.
You guys were so mad at me.
I was sitting here laying this out, and I'm like, hey, DB, X, Y, and
Severe
Z.
was the worst. Severe was like, he basically looked at me, and he's like, you're an idiot. And I knew what he was. I ate it.
Yeah.
He didn't say it.
No, but you know what he was
felt. Yeah, because he said, what if those people that you're championing aren't capable of self-awareness? And I said, then it'll be over when it's over.
Yeah. I mean, me and Severe may have said the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I was never, at no point was I ever mad at him because I understood what he was saying.
And I think what I said to you, I think this was on a Big Red Overreaction or whatever they call it. I was sitting there with you and I go, hey, what have these people ever done that lead you to believe they're capable of this change? And you're like, nothing, but then you used yourself as an example. You go, but up to a certain point in my life, nothing I had done would lead people that I was capable of that change either. And I still did.
Yep.
Right. So I get that. And I appreciate that. I don't have to ride with people that way.
No, I understand.
Right. I understand you do.
Yeah.
But that's one of the big differences between you and me is I'm gonna pull the ripcord earlier.
Yeah.
I just am.
That's why I need kind of, I need the like the Timos or the Ryan or the V. Like I need some of that in my life for balance.
Yeah. Because, and honestly, the reason I am like, hey, why do you ride with those guys is because and this is weird, but I want to protect you from some of the damage that can come from people that.
Usually it's emotional.
Yeah, it's emotional damage.
Yeah, but I tanked a year ago, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it won. But I say all that to say one of the things that I like is he goes, for me, I'm just all about the results. Okay.
That's fine.
Right? Like,
but I don't want to operate that way.
So once you say that,
you understand what realm he's operating in.
Yep.
So you can. That's what I mean when I say Reese.
And it better enables me to know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like Joel after the Colorado game.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I didn't care about this.
I wanted blood.
I wanted blood.
Which is totally fine.
I'm like, oh.
That's why I say if you can tell me you just want the pound of flesh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to.
And I have lots of those. So people apparently, I must use that a bit.
Yeah.
Because I have like 2 DMs, which is weird that they say the same thing. I want my pound of flesh. That's how it starts.
Which is fine. Like if you have the self-awareness to tell me that you just want your pound of flesh, I can deal with that. What I have a hard time dealing with, and this is where I started snapping back at people, is if you are trying to convince me that I should want the pound of flesh too, and you're mad at me that I don't, right? That's one of the reasons.
That's how I kind of feel Denny is.
Yes.
Even though I like Denny.
Yeah, then that's why I
think he wants me to feel like him. But I won't.
Yes, and those are some of the fans that I start to push back on, right? Because hey, you can fan how you want, you can feel how you want.
He may end up being right. I mean, he said something the other day. I was like, wow, we've completely fast forwarded.
So here's the other thing is I do a little bit of fast forwarding too, and with the Satterfield thing, there were a couple things that I was afraid we were going to fast forward to, right? Number one, if you're being this critical at 5-1 with an offensive coordinator, how fast is it going to be before you're this critical of a head coach at, say, 9-3, right? That's the kind of mindset that I don't love, because if you think Rhule's the guy and you're going to be mad at 5-1, I don't love the track record of how that is going to start to look, or how I think that's going to start to look. Here's the other thing, is I don't mind people being skeptical. What I push back on specifically, and I'm sure you remember this, was at 5-1, people calling for jobs, right? Oh, it's 14-7 against Rutgers, and they didn't score in the first half against Purdue. Because what did I keep saying? Hey, unless you've got a guy on staff, and Adam McClintock, our guy, said the same thing. Typically, he's not a fan of midseason hires unless there's a couple situations that play out. Number one, you have a better option in-house, which at the time they didn't. Glenn Thomas, analytically, not a better play caller than Marcus Satterfield. So I sit there and I go, okay, so you don't have a better option in-house. So that's out there. Number two, something off the field happens that, to our knowledge, that hasn't been the case. Have no indication that that's the case. So that's off the table too. Number three, have they completely lost the locker room and guys just aren't listening to him anymore? That didn't appear to be the case either. He's still on staff. I would imagine it's still not the case, right? So those are the three options. What I didn't have on my board is that some guy currently working at another school was going to come here in November, right? Like if that option's on the table, then you look at things a little bit differently. But that's what I was pushing back on more than anything. Can I see, hey, there's issues here? Yes. Can I see, yeah, I wish they would score better in the red zone. But I can also see, hey, there's some really creative and effective play designs here. I can also see that they're one of the top 30 teams in the country. I think about 30. Don't hold me to that. But top 20%, I know that's real, of moving the ball. So this is not a wholly broken thing. So I'm like, okay, if this is not wholly broken and the in-season options aren't great, unless I know that Dana Holgerson's on the board, which no one did, by the way. Let's not pretend all the skeptics thought Dana Holgerson was walking through that door during the bye week, because no one did. And even after he did, only a handful of people even thought calling plays was even an option, right? And so that's where I pushed back. And that's where I would continue to push back because, listen, you can say I'm about the results, and that's fine. But some of the results say, again, Nebraska is one of the better teams in the country at moving the ball. Some of the results say, hey, the play calling is good, because the result of a good play call is guys being open. But there's also the result of execution, of getting the ball to those guys, right? So when you say you're results-oriented, I need to know which results you're oriented to. Because if I'm looking at offensive coordinator, one of the results I'm oriented to is like, okay, did the play work in terms of design? Did guys get open?
So you know what's interesting, though? Because I'm with you. I think, and I think the only real thing that I care about, this is funny, just listening to, just processing through all these messages and back and forth. And I only use, a handful of guys because I've either learned something or I find like there's been this aha moment, but this is several.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I just scrolled through my DMs, it would look like a roulette thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I'm okay with that. Right. The only thing the most important thing that I think will come out of this deal is we have we have leadership at the top that has these qualities that in my heart of hearts, I believe gives him a chance.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't guarantee success, but you cannot have success without possessing those qualities. Just like I had somebody yesterday say, just because you're competitive doesn't mean you're going to win. No, man. But
nobody gives you a chance.
Like, I don't understand. I don't know why I let people like that frustrate me, because I think it's because I think they must live a miserable life.
So that's part of it, too, is I refuse to live that way.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to defend. Like, I want to make this bigger than just defending our stance.
Sure.
I want to make this about, like growth.
Mm-hmm.
If you have somebody in a position of leadership that has 80, 85, 90% of the qualities you need, all I care about is that him or her feels deficient, they ask for help. He's clearly somebody that's willing to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it guarantees success, but without being other center, without being competitive, and without being self-aware, you don't even have a chance. So if you get somebody that can surround themselves and fill in with the other 15, 10%, you got a chance, man. I'm telling you.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, wrapping up hour number 1 on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where a week from tomorrow you can join us for the final live breakfast of the year before the Wisconsin game. What's that face for?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing. Just
I don't have any idea what I was actually thinking. That's awful. I apologize.
That's okay.
What was I doing?
You look very concerned.
So, what I think it was?
What's that?
Do you really want to be sidetracked?
Yeah, why not? Go to eventbrite.com, reserve your place, and you can win tickets to the Wisconsin game from Tickets for Less. Go ahead.
Shade just rolls his eyes. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I just was somebody just called me soft.
Uh-oh.
I just wondered if I could practice. I was practicing making a mean face.
You didn't nail it. You did not.
Sorry about that. That's fine. It's fine.
We'll keep practicing. It's all right.
I think it was manufactured. I was trying to.
You just look confused.
Wow.
Hey, well, that's why I reacted the way I did, because you looked at me like you were confused.
You know what? Sometimes a little tact will go a long way, okay? I'm just going to let you know. fudge.
You know, I'm very tactful. It's one
Yeah.
of my best
You can
qualities.
see all your qualities that Natasha loves in you. Oh, just his tact. It's fantastic.
You probably could have gotten away with it in the first segment when the camera was bad.
Is the camera back?
The camera's back.
I never
So it
logged
picked
in,
it up bright
but
and
now
clear.
I don't have any outs because you don't need me to log in.
It's true. Yeah, the login is just for your own comments.
Great.
Well, I mean, you know.
Fudge. I'm surrounded by little pocket Hercules and freaking Mr. Rogers.
Good morning again.
I like sweaters. What do you want from me?
Won't you be my radio partner? What?
Listen, Mr. Rogers is a good role model.
Is he?
Good guy.
So he did or didn't serve in the war, Shane?
I don't know if that one's true or not.
It's not.
Okay. He seems like a good guy, though.
Good guys can serve in the war.
Shane, it was just Veterans Day. Lots of good guys served.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, my God.
What are you doing over there, man?
Good morning again.
Shane Dinklage. What? What's the matter?
I just thought of something, but it's okay. I don't think I can say that on the air. Coming up on the show today.
Did you have a mean face when you did it?
No, it was.
I don't know what I was doing. I was just in the moment. I was practicing.
Coming up on the show today, we've got Ty Shalter. He covers the NFL for Pride of Detroit. Going to talk a little NFL. At 8:45, we've got our guy Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, who's got jokes in the chat already this morning. Appreciate that, Brian.
Dude, he's wild.
Coming up at 9, we've got Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Talk a little Nebraska football.
I told you we went out there. I went out there to watch UFC with him.
Oh, yeah. Is that where the Budweiser thing came about?
No. I don't know what that was about. We were just shooting the breeze, but so like 24 hours before the fight, John Jones was pulled from the card.
Oh, is that the when he tested positive for something?
I can't remember what it was, but
It's been Coke a lot. I know that.
What hasn't?
He tested positive for Coke at least once.
Wow, wash your mouth out, blasphemer.
It's not blasphemy if it's a thing that happened.
Was it Coke?
He's tested positive for PEDs and for Coke, I believe.
Anyway,
I was just asking if it was the Coke kind.
So I was loitering outside the arena because I was waiting for B. Edwards, and John Jones rolled up.
Really?
Yeah, with like 2 other people. Now he was in, I guess, a limo, but it wasn't very stretchy.
Yeah.
It was just a nice
Just
black
like-
sedan
just
with
like a-
tinted windows.
So that's just a car.
It wasn't. Yeah.
So limos have to be long.
And he got out, and we I don't know, man. He might be another piece of cheese guy.
B. Edwards?
No,
John Jones?
because I like John Jones.
That's some moldy cheese.
Wow, out on John Jones.
A drug test before a successful title fight in Las Vegas showed traces of a metabolite of cocaine. So yeah, Coke.
Yeah, he just did a line.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
I wasn't blaspheming. Like
not
the guy,
that I'm condoning doing a line.
the guy test positive for Coke. That's all I was saying.
Maybe they were having a party, and he
That's fine. I'm just saying, if you test positive for Coke, and then I say you test positive for Coke, that's not blasphemy. That's just me reading.
But you're not a guy that needs a pound of flesh.
So I just want
Can
accuracy.
you get your foot off my throat?
I just would like a little accuracy.
Can you get your foot off
I
my
mean, you
throat?
called me out for saying he tested positive for Coke, and he did.
I wasn't necessarily the facts. It was that you were so quick to pounce on Double J.
Well, listen. My
You're
guy,
you're an equal opportunity Richard head.
well, that's accurate to everyone except for my mom and wife. Those might be the only 2 people in my life I'm like actively nice to.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Shout out the rest of your friend group.
Listen, me and T-Mose have a great time.
Yeah, I don't understand why that guy likes you. Ryan either. I don't.
I'm actually very nice.
Hey, Ryan doesn't like anybody. He hadn't said one nice thing to me in like 6 years.
So why do you like Ryan?
Because he's practical.
How are the older guys going to take
He's
it?
very practical.
I'm starting to notice a theme here.
He's good to my kid.
There is a there might be a common denominator in some of these stories.
What?
It might be you.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the only consistent thing.
That's all right. That's who we've got coming up on the show today.
God, I just want to sock you. What if I? Yeah, never mind.
What?
I'm just demented. So I don't really want to be violent with you, but what I would one day, like this was either Monday or Thursday. I just wanted to take like a razor, like an electric one, and I'm gonna get that guy. I'm just gonna be like, zoop, and do it right down the middle.
It's all right. It'll grow back in like a day.
Yeah, that's what you'd probably said. So I was like, he wouldn't care.
Shave it off. It's fine. It'll grow back.
It's fine.
Been growing this thing since I was like 15.
Kind of jealous. This is taking me 50 years, and it sucks. You're like at 37, and it's like full bloom.
I mean, I literally started shaving when I was 12.
Yeah.
So I've had some practice here.
It's about when Kalk started getting buckets in the paint last night.
Has he missed yet?
Jeez. How about a local broadcast on a random Wednesday night, and you get Kugler and Baugh?
Oh, it was terrific. Love it.
Like, think those guys don't have a little chemistry?
I love it. It's great. I love when we get Kugler and Baugh. It was also, speaking of local, there was a couple kids from Lincoln on that Houston Christian team.
Yeah.
The Basil brothers.
Basil.
Yeah, they actually I knew their
Not to be confused with Tony.
I knew their parents back in the day. Their dad.
Is Tony Basil old Ricky? Shane?
I don't know.
Oh, Ricky, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Ricky.
I don't know. I've
You've never heard that song?
I've heard the song. I don't know if there's any Basils
Shane,
involved.
I need your help.
But their dad
I
played
thought it was O'Candy.
Christian college ball, the same like
Not so
type
much.
that I coached and played at, and like one of the best scorers in the country. Like he was a bucket. Their dad was.
I love the dichotomy of you being so anti the year of our Lord, but always being able to reference some sort of Christian background. It's fantastic.
Listen,
You remind me of who's the guy that flips the coin, the villain in Batman? You're like Harvey. You're like Ravi Harvey Dent.
Listen,
Do you have two coins?
I'm complicated.
Oh,
No, he was a bucket though. He was down in Manhattan Christian College, Manhattan,
you know who
Kansas.
was in the bucket? The whole rest of that
The
team.
entire roster.
God, they couldn't throw it in the ocean.
No, the second half wasn't terrible. First half was pretty rough. 12 points and a half is a tough hang.
I don't know if I'm sure Rob tweeted it out, but is that an all-time low?
For
An
the
opponent?
McDermott era,
Yeah.
yes. There was somebody tweeted out there was another 12 in the 2000s, but it must have been with Altman. But that's pretty rough. Like that's hard to.
I got the sense
That's hard to accomplish.
like real time. The crowd was so shell shocked that they couldn't throw it in the ocean. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, Creighton wasn't lighting it up early either.
Sluggish start. Sluggish.
I think they were at 19 points with about 5 minutes left, and then they finally kind of got it going. Went on a little 20-3 run to end that half there, and it was off to the races at that point. But it was a super sluggish start to that game. But Houston Christian was a late made three away from single digits in the first half.
Oh, I know.
Like that was on the table, which is
I like that little dude. He looked like somebody I would pick up in like the hallway when I wanted to go get a bucket. I was like, I'd be like, "Hey Tim,
let's go get a bucket.
you want to go get a run in?" He's like, "Sure, let me change my shoes first." That's who he reminded me of.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's funny.
I feel like you're a little outmatched in this one.
No, I mean that's a tough spot.
Yeah.
They were an NAI program not that long ago.
And the thing that doesn't bother me is Creighton's non-con gets ramped up.
Oh, 100%.
In a hurry.
Yeah. So they've got Kansas City this weekend.
Yep.
And then it starts to get off and popping right after that. But we would be remiss if we didn't shout out our guy Greg McDermott for the all-time winningest coach in Creighton history. It's a little and this is obvious, but it kind of hit me last night that the McDermotts have both the best player and the best coach in the history of that program, which is pretty unusual. I'm not sure. There's probably not another program in the country you could say that about.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Unless I don't know who the best coach in LSU history is, but I don't think it's Press Maravich.
No.
So that's about it. That's the list.
Yep. No Alcindor coached. No
Waltons.
So Knight's son obviously wasn't the GOAT in Indiana playing history.
Yeah. There's just not a lot.
I don't think there is one.
Even if they didn't play for that coach, right? you probably don't have two guys that are the GOATs at that program in the same family. So pretty cool night for the McDermotts. I was glad they showed the video on the broadcast or chunks of the video. And you could see Coach McDermott was
touched a little,
getting a little emotional.
Yeah, I wonder at what point he'll allow himself to soak in his own goatness.
His own, yeah, and the accomplishments.
Because he's
general.
his own standard.
100%.
So, I mean, you have to be self-aware to not be full of yourself.
Well, 100%. And sometimes you can be self-aware and just be like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and be full of myself.
He's not you.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm looking at you, Kurt Signetti.
Leave my guy Kurt alone.
We got Ty Shalter coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We're joined now by Ty Shalter. He covers the NFL for Pride of Detroit. What's going on, Ty?
Not a lot. Just another wild week in the NFL.
Yeah, that's about the going rate every week, isn't it?
Just about. I'm not complaining. Lots of great games, prime time slots when everybody is watching. That's when we have fun.
It's interesting. Our listening audience loves you, and already you start with a little chuckle just to bring the juice, right? It's what we're going to get here in this next interviewing segment. Highly intelligent and very entertaining. Ty, I want to start right there in your backyard. We were talking to Cynthia Freeland last week, and I said, this is a copycat league. And is what Detroit has done from going 3-13 a handful of years ago to arguably the best team in the league, is there anything that they can copy with the blueprint of Dan Campbell kind of operating as the CEO, the energy, the lifeblood, the pulse of the team, and having tremendous coordinators that he lets coordinate that team? Is there anything in there that is replicable?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. I think number one, obviously everybody's trying to upgrade on the offensive line, right? There's so little offensive line talent being developed. Everybody needs to be more patient with quarterbacks in general, right? Brad Holmes, huge believer in Jared Goff, brought him in and said, if we can be patient with him, if we can put the right voices in his ear, if we build the team around what we can do, I know he can play like he did in 2017 and 2018. You got a lot of quarterbacks right now, very physically talented, not in great situations. That's one thing. And one thing I think, go back and watch Hard Knocks, right? What's the thing that stands out the most about Dan Campbell is his love for the players. You watch any of his post-game speech, he says love a bunch of times.
Yeah.
The players all say love. Not afraid to go, hey, I care about you as a person. Like, I demand high effort. I have high expectations, but I'm also going to be patient with you. I'm going to give you opportunities to learn. I'm going to put trust in you. If you earn that trust, I'm going to care about you as a person. I'm going to make sure, you have, like Zadarius Smith has acquired. He was worried about his home back in Florida after the hurricane, hadn't had a chance to go down there yet. And they said, hey, you know what? This is going to be Cleveland's bye week. You were going to go down and check out. You don't have to play against Houston. As much as we'd love to have you against Houston, go take that time, go settle in, go check on your place, go check on your family. As Agent said this morning, there are a lot of teams that would not have done that, right? So I think there's just that respect and caring throughout the organization, having everybody on the same page. Also, it helps if you hit basically every single one of your draft picks.
That is helpful.
Oh, by the way, yeah, they can definitely
People do underrate that, yeah. Ty, is that something that's so I know we focus on, whether it's Dan Campbell or we focus on Jared Goff or whatever, but is that the real secret sauce? And that's something that's really hard to replicate because we see it all the time, right? Everybody thinks that their draft picks are good in the moment, right? Otherwise you wouldn't make that pick. But is that the thing that is just, hey, you can try and find the CEO, head coach. You can try and find a quarterback that's maybe been written off that you believe in. But unless you also do, that's kind of what we saw the downfall in New England, right? They went on finding a ton of value in odd places to just never hitting a draft pick again.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to look for, there's that balance, right? You have a system, you have staff you trust, you have evaluators you trust, right? You have evaluation. But that exactly what you highlighted in New England, they spent for years and years, hey, we draft guys in the third, fourth, and fifth round who fit an athletic profile, who fit our system, and they're going to work out much more often than everybody's third, fourth, and fifth round picks. Then when they go to get the stats to sign a big contract, we let somebody else sign the big contract and draft another fourth round guy and plug him in there, right? Save money. Well, now we're in the NFL. The game has changed, right? In the last 10 years, the cap has more than doubled. Everybody's got 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, $100 million of cap space. If you're sitting there letting key players walk and replacing them with fourth-round rookies, well, most of the time that's not going to work out. You got to change what you do. We saw that here in Detroit with Matt Patricia. Drafted Jelani Tavai in the second round, way ahead of everybody else. And, we went, well, why? Why did you draft him so high? It's like, well, we have to have, on-ball linebacker who's at least 6'4", 250 pounds with arms at least this many inches long, or our system won't work. And it's like, okay, well, Jelani Tavai in his first couple of years in the league had no idea what hole to hit, had no idea how to play coverage. It was like, you have to, if you are relying on that guy to start because of your system, you have to be able to see what kind of a football player he is and build the system around that, instead of going, well, I have all these numbers that Bill Belichick told me and I followed that to a T. So that's absolutely part of it, is being able to adjust and adapt and evaluate the players for who they are and for what you want them to do on the field.
Ty, we got into this "What Would We Rather" segment yesterday, and Ravi asked me a question that on the surface I felt like I should have been able to answer a little more easily, but I couldn't. He asked me, going forward, would I rather be the New York Giants or the Chicago Bears? And on the surface, I'm like, well, shoot, I have my quarterback in place. I've got a really good defense. I get that the Giants have Lawrence and Thibodeau and Burns. And I ended up saying the Giants because I don't love the Bears front office. Then he said, well, what about in 3 years? And I said, well, I'd probably take the Bears because it's easier to flip your front office strategy than it is your roster. How would you have answered that question real time? Would you rather be the Giants or the Bears? Because both jobs will inevitably come open.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I had exactly the same reservation. It's what's the opposite of what we just said, right? You go to Chicago, you say, who's making decisions and why?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know who's making decisions and why. Whose decision was it to keep Matt Eberflus? Whose decision? What is going on with the coaching staff? Look at the number of coordinators.
You couldn't get a coordinator because you kept a lame duck head coach. Like, who does that?
Yes. Well, and before, what happened to the last two defensive coordinators? Where did they go? Remember the guy who quit with his tear-stained letter? Like, what happened there? We still don't really know what's going on in that organization, and it's troubling, and it's you're seeing the fruit of that right now. And obviously, Caleb Williams, they got a ton of talent on defense. They got some pieces on offense there. It's a team that, and then they're playing in a tough division, right? If the Bears are in the AFC South, we'd probably have better results and a little bit of a different narrative. But even so, Eberflus was not the guy. You had a chance to flip everything around. This is a different league. You can flip things quickly. If you have somebody making good decisions in the front office, then you can put things together fast. So, yeah, I would have to lean the Giants as well, even though I do still like Caleb Williams. I do still think they can turn that around if they either make smart decisions or get lucky.
Ty, on that thought, who is out of I'm going to give you three teams. One of them is going to be the Bears, okay?
We're solving all Ravi's problems the last couple of days here, Ty, in case you haven't figured this out.
I just like making people answer questions that I think are difficult to have a decision. So I'm gonna give you three teams. One of them's the Bears, one of them's the Cowboys, one of them's the Jets. Who is the most dysfunctional of those three?
Okay, well, you know what? I'm actually gonna say it's the Cowboys.
I agree.
Like it or not, the Jets have a direction, right? We know who's making the calls. It's Woody Johnson, and we know what his plan is. It's give Aaron Rodgers everything he wants. He did that. He followed that plan. It was a bad plan. It's not working out.
That doesn't make it any more palatable, though, but I get it.
So here's my question, Ty. No, you're right.
It's just functioning in the wrong direction.
But no, here's my question, though, Ty. Is it more functional to have a bad plan or to not have a plan at all?
You know, it's a good question. I do think Jerry Jones did say he pursued Mike McCarthy. He wanted that plan. He wanted to give him that control. And again, I can't tell you. I have not followed the Cowboys closely enough. I'm not as plugged in to know, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, which guy named Jones is quote unquote really calling the shots.
I don't think they know either. To be fair, I don't think they know either.
That's a great.
I just would like to be at the Thanksgiving dinner table, but they're usually playing. So whatever they do before Thanksgiving, I just want to know.
It probably depends on who you ask, because if you ask Steven, he probably says Steven. If you ask Jerry, he probably says Steven. If you ask anybody else in the world, they probably say Jerry.
I'm sure that's accurate. Obviously Dallas has more talent in more places. You expect.
So the reason I asked the question of bad plan versus no plan, A, I thought it was funny, but B, I actually think it's harder to recover from being committed to a bad plan than it is to pivot from not having a plan at all.
I don't.
Because
I don't.
Look at the situation the Jets have put themselves in by being committed to a bad plan.
Well, let's look at
they're
it.
in a tough spot now.
Let's look at it practically.
Okay.
Right.
I'm trying.
Let's say rather that you've spent 6 years spending money that you haven't earned, or what's a practical example, like paying current bills with future income.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If somebody comes in and they say, hey, help me fix my budget, versus not really having a blueprint for incremental poor spending for the country, it would be more difficult to correct the latter than it is the previous. The bad plan, you at least know where they went wrong. A haphazard plan is hard to correct.
You there with us again?
Yes, I'm here.
Appreciate it.
Sorry about that, Ty. That was us.
That was on us. Ty, so here's the question that I was asking DB was, in the NFL, is it harder to recover from not having a plan at all, or seemingly not having a plan at all, or is it harder to recover from being fully committed to a bad plan?
That's a great question. I think it's probably harder to recover from not having a plan at all, because it's the kind of the I don't want to borrow the phrase deep state, but you have assistants, you have scouts, you have staffers, you have people that were brought in for various reasons at various times, right? And you need to be able to organize it. And if you understand, okay, well, so-and-so brought in this guy, because they're his guys. And, go Google one of the many times Amy Trask has gone on her Your Guys rant, right? You brought in people that you know or you were familiar with or that come from a certain philosophy, and they showed up here 2-3 years ago, and they were part of the bad plan. And, if anybody has proven they're adaptable and can be helpful in the new regime, okay, cool, you keep them, otherwise you let them go. So if you've got a haphazard plan and you pivoted 2-3 times over the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you've got a mishmash of people, and you come in and whoever comes in has to try and evaluate, well, why are you here? What were you good at? How did you get promoted into the spot that you are? And I think probably figuring that out and getting that kind of grip around an organization is harder than going, okay, well, everyone here was part of this new project to make Patriots East or West or South or wherever, and we can just safely let all those people go and build a new plan.
All right, so in another case of would you rather, and I was mad at Ravi because he kept asking me about the Steelers, and he knows I'm a diehard Steelers fan, but he gave me one between the Steelers and the Chargers. And this is a guy that listens to every Tomlin press conference. Like, I've been a Steelers fan for 45 years, Ty. And I think I said over the next 3 years, I'd rather be the Chargers. And I felt like I needed a shower after saying it. Would you talk me off that ledge, or would you be like, oh, I could see that.
There's a lot of reasons to be excited about what the Chargers are doing. Jim Harbaugh, saw him up close. We talk about 40 years. I just turned 43, and I saw him as a tiny child as a Michigan quarterback, and I watched him in the NFL, and I watched him as a coach in the NFL and had a lot of respect for what he did in San Francisco. And then I watched him come coach Michigan and saw him up close against my Spartans for years. I'm familiar with him. Give him Justin Herbert, who I think just about every NFL watcher goes, man, that kid in a vacuum, right? There's maybe one or two other people you take over him, especially for his age.
That was kind of the swing for me.
Yeah. However, I hate being the number 2 tenant in the Rams stadium. I hate what they've done with their fan base. And Pittsburgh, I mean, you talk about organization.
Yeah, that's like the epitome of stability, right?
Exactly. And, Steelers and Ravens, and amazing that they're so close rivals. Those two organizations have done it just about like no other franchises have, and that you love to have that kind of stability, and the fact that Mike Tomlin has continued to adapt and continued to do what he does and continue to get results. He has a talent advantage. When he doesn't have a talent advantage, they're at least in the mix year in, year out because of him and his staff and that stability in the way they do things as an organization. And that's amazing. And the Chargers have not had that. They've had interesting moments. They've had interesting talent. They've had amazing uniforms. And who knows, I believe Jim Harbaugh can build something cool in LA. It's exciting to be a part of. But I think in 2, 3, 4 years, if he hasn't built something that's really special, then you go back and go, well, I wish I'd been rooting for the Steelers and knowing they're going to roll out of bed and win 9, 10 games and maybe more. And they're going to be involved in big moments, and they're going to be in the mix in the AFC. And I don't think anybody has loved or been on board with his plan at quarterback. And look at where we are. Where we are. So Mike Tomlin still is clowning people like you and me with knowing what he's talking about. And I think that's worth something.
Foregone conclusion that the Chiefs can always overcome because of Reed, Spags, and Mahomes.
It's impossible to overstate how true that has been. But the thing I've been saying is this. Last year, we all went, oh, my gosh, they got to do something at wide receiver. They got to do something at wide receiver. They stood pat, and they won the Super Bowl. And this year, everybody's like, oh, my gosh, they're undefeated. Can they run the table? And they went and got DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that says something about how they perceive their strength and they perceive their roster and their ability to go out and do it at a certain time, right? You look at the numbers, you look at the metrics, and they're good but not great. They're top 5, not top 1 or 2, top 10, but not top 3 or 4 in a lot of the key metrics that we're used to seeing from them. And it's not struggling, it's not bad, they're not fake, they're not just.
It's just that they're their own benchmark.
Yeah, they're their own benchmark. And we always have this also too, right? Which is, I say this also, everybody wants Patrick Mahomes and thinks Patrick Mahomes throws for 5 touchdowns and 500 yards if you don't watch the Kansas City Chiefs every week. Every year we have 4 to 6 or 7 weeks of the NFL season where everybody goes, has the NFL figured Mahomes out? What's going on? Is Andy Reid washed? Is he? And then they go win the Super Bowl every single year. So I do think that coach combination, and Spagnuolo absolutely needs to start getting mentioned up there when we say Andy Reid, not just Andy Reid. Steve Spagnuolo has done an incredible job pivoting and adapting and getting production out of different players year after year. And yes, Mahomes is unbelievable.
Ty, I'm just going to let it slide that while you were going through the history of the Chargers that you showed absolutely zero respect to my guy Stan Humphries. But
listen, you know what makes it easy for him to say that? He's a 49ers fan, and they drubbed them in the Super Bowl. That's how you get a Stan Humphries reference.
I was a big Natron Means guy, though. So I do want to ask, since DB got to take up some time with the Steelers, I'll get you out of here with my 49ers. Would you rather be the 49ers with all their injury issues and hope that guys start to get healthy at the right time, or the Ravens with their defense that couldn't stop a cold?
Oh, man, it's a great question. I've bet on the Ravens this year. Obviously, their offense is incredible. Lamar is playing out of his mind. Adding Derrick Henry's an incredible addition for them. San Francisco, I think, obviously Christian McCaffrey's been a gigantic loss. Some of the other injuries have hurt them too. I also suspect they've had a little bit of brain drain, right? You've had Robert Saleh and Ryan. You've had a bunch of great coaches get hired and poached off that staff, and I wonder if that's not part of what we're seeing as well. The Ravens, I've been on the Ravens so high so many years in a row. I've been like, this is the year. They're so good in the regular season that they're going to do it in the playoffs, and they're going to beat the Chiefs, and they're going to beat the Bills, and they're going to beat all these other teams. And, they haven't done it. Obviously, the defense gives me pause. I would probably rather be the Ravens this year just because I think how well Lamar is playing. And, again, San Francisco, they get just McCaffrey back at 100%, and I think that changes a lot. If they get some of these other guys healthy, it changes it more. But I just like the Ravens spot this year more than I like the 49ers.
That's our guy, Ty Schalter.
You never disappoint.
Pride of Detroit. Ty, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Ty.
Don't sleep on Stan Humphries. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. If you were able to hear us during our little intermission during the last segment, you would have heard me talking about DB giving himself shots while we're talking to guests here. It's because we went over to Game Day Men's Health. Got ourselves a little bit of a little pick-me-up. Feeling a little sluggish. And you're like, you know what? I could use a little energy. And that's what we got. They tested us.
Funky Giblets must have been able to see because he said ready, aim, fire.
No, that was when we were talking about plans.
Oh.
He was talking about the plans. He was just ready.
I just want you to know.
I think it meant ready, fire, aim.
As we shout out Game Day Men's Health.
Yeah.
I tried to explain why I didn't wait till break to do it.
Yeah, it wasn't a great explanation.
It was fantastic. It's fine.
What we did get was a great explanation while we weren't feeling as energetic as we used to be. And it's, at least for me, my testosterone was a little bit low, but they are hooking me up.
I just want to sleep.
You just sleep better.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I got you. I feel you. But I have been feeling much better, much more energetic, getting some workouts in, feel good.
Yeah, you got a lot sharper tongue.
I think
they didn't tell me that was part of the deal.
I don't know if that's related or not, but you should go over to GameDayMen'sHealth.com, set up your own appointment and consultation. It's not just testosterone therapy. They are going to give you, kind of like we talked about the other day, a full picture of your health. Make sure your PSA is in check. That checks your prostate for prostate cancer, as we learned the other day.
You don't say, Robbie.
You also get a full blood panel to make sure everything is clicking the way it should be. Make sure you get to GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
If nothing else.
Yeah. Just go hang out with their friends.
Yes.
They're cool people.
Good people.
People.
That's what sometimes when you're in my head, it's fine. Sometimes I want you out, but that time it was fine.
It's hard to tell when it's okay and when it's not.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, I try. Sometimes I try and leave. I'm like, oh, it's scary up here.
You just never know. Yeah, they are good people. Like really good people.
Good people. And if you want to go in every week and talk to them and get your treatment, they'll do it that way, or they can ship it to you. It's good stuff. Either way, they'll get you covered and taken care of. So we appreciate them over there.
And clearly, I don't mind putting holes in myself.
I mean, I'm diabetic, so I'm used to it. Got a little experience with the old needles there, so I was like, yeah, just ship them on to me. It doesn't bother me at all.
I'm glad you did Google to see if I could put it in my quad.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like doing the whole cracky cakes thing.
Yeah, that would have been tougher to pull off on air.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that on air. Wow. Anyway. Anywho.
I mean, it's on the internet. You can do anything you want.
I tried to get Shane to say that, and he's like, nip.
I mean, you can't see the booty over the air.
Who says booty?
I don't know. You say boonda. I don't even know what that means.
The perfume and lotion.
Boonda is for like somebody that has kids, like your boonda.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. I don't think kids can say butt in school.
They Why not?
Can they?
I don't know. I don't have kids. I haven't been to school in a long time.
I think if you said bunda to a teacher, it would be a lot more well received
like acceptable
than butt.
What about booty?
Yeah, I think that's out. I think that's probably third of the three so far.
You think booty's worse than butt?
Mrs. Anderson, my booty
hurts.
My booty hurts. Yeah. Versus
my butt hurts.
Mrs. Anderson, my bunda hurts. Aw.
Couldn't booty be like pirate treasure or something though?
It could.
Yeah, if you're a child eating snacks at the table.
Well, then we're talking about childs in school here, so
Childs. That's like Ravi saying worser.
Worser's a real word.
I would go with bunda, butt.
Really?
Booty.
Are there any alternatives?
I don't know if anybody else uses bunda.
I think it's a you thing. Because if a kid came up to me and I had never, which that'd be weird anyway, but if anybody came up to me and was like,
had you parked your white van?
No. If anybody came up to me and was like, my bunda hurts, I'd be like, what are you talking about?
No, you wouldn't.
Only because I hang out with you.
But you would know, like you could not know me.
Without the context of knowing you, I would have no idea what they were talking about. I think you are the only person that uses that term.
Well, for the record, you suggested booty, and I feel like that would be the worst.
Why is booty worse than butt?
Really?
Yeah. I feel like butt sounds more coarse. Like if you're, like booty sounds a little bit like
no,
a little more gentle.
No,
no. You think butt is less profane?
Per usual, I'm Team DB here. Start with bunda.
Start with the word that's made up that nobody knows what it means.
Booty's more acceptable.
See?
No, it's not.
See?
Isn't that what everybody wants? We're talking about pirate treasure, right?
Incredible.
Amazing Daniel says, my kid went to Benson West when he was young, saying butt was the least of their concerns with the kids there. Steven Young, this is our guy. Well, actually, Steven
Are
says,
we going to act like shit?
I'm just moving right along. He says posterior. If somebody came up and said posterior, I'd be like, I'd look at him weird. I know what that meant, but I'd look at him weird.
Posterior comes from a guy that would say, well, actually.
Yeah. Of course, he also gave us gluteus maximus, so, you know. And I just start talking about gladiator.
I know this is weird, but I kind of feel like I'm right.
Amazing Daniel's never heard the word bunda. I think you made that word up.
Probably.
I think you did. I've never heard that word except for from you. Steven also says
it's kind of been a traumatizing morning if we go back from the beginning until now.
So TK has an interesting point.
Now, you know he's nuts, so be careful.
He says he's only ever heard the term bunda from a specific group of people.
Who would they be?
A certain cultural group.
Canadians?
Yes. People with an affinity for Canada.
Yeah, that's where I got it.
I have no idea. I think he was insinuating something else.
That's incredible. That's incredible if he's being serious.
I have no idea.
Because that is the first person I heard say that.
Ooh, DMG says bum.
Yeah, that's another thing that she used to say.
Yeah, he says that's a Canada one.
Yeah, bum.
Bum, I think, is acceptable.
She totally said bum and bunda.
I feel like bum is an acceptable one. Like if you're like, hey, my bum hurts.
Yeah.
Nobody's offended by that, right?
Yeah, let's go with that one.
Bum.
Yeah.
We have a winner. The most acceptable use of the term butt is bum.
Let's go with that.
I'm glad we figured that out.
You're still an idiot. I know what you just did there. It's fine.
What did I just do?
Well.
What did I do, DB?
No, I know what you did.
I don't even know what I did. I don't know what you're talking about.
Kind of had some guys go in, but not really go in. Make it seem like they're being productive with their thoughts. And they're like, this dude just made up a word and he's trying to let it pass for something that's acceptable. And you let everybody else do it. That's fine. I'm well aware how you work. And then you got numbnuts over here to say something completely out of context.
I was like, nah, I don't know about that. I thought that was pretty funny.
I can't even acknowledge that, dude.
So, have you ever go to Trader Joe's?
Do I look like somebody that would go to Trader Joe's?
I mean, you don't look like somebody that would say bunda either. You all right?
Fair.
You good?
Get to the point.
They have this like popcorn mixed stuff that's called,
called
Pirate's Booty.
That's what I said. That's
what I said. Everybody wants the
I got
booty.
that from Zoe because kids eat that in class.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going.
And right on brand, we bought an oversized bag.
They're
because
huge. They're like enormous.
It was like
It's a giant booty.
And guess what? We ate a quarter of it. And
Giant booty's
the
good.
rest, I panicked that if I.
A giant bag of that stuff would be great.
I know why he's doing it because he's culturally stereotyping, but that's not my thing.
Shane, why are you doing that, man?
I'm not doing anything.
Yes,
I'm just telling you what I like.
He's trying to appeal to my.
Not all Canadians like popcorn, man.
Wow.
I haven't even said the worst thing that I want to say, and I'm not going to. I got to get through 40 more seconds of this segment without making the joke. You have no idea how bad the joke Tourette's is right now. I'm trying so hard. I am trying so hard not to get us fired and off the air. Thank God the music kicked in because we were in a real danger zone there. Our Boondas might have been in trouble.
Wow.
That's Stevie. I'm Ravi Lou. We'll be back
Maybe.
with Brian Edwards.
Oh, that's my guy. I'll stick
from
around.
Our Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com, here on
I see what you guys did.
Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha,
Real funny, you guys.
ESPN Tri-Cities.
Maybe he'll talk about the booty.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. And to all of our shock, we are still on the air. Joining us now is our friend Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. What's up, B?
Good morning, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Well, hey, B, full disclosure, man, we have not been right all morning. It's USC week. We talked Nebraska football for like 35 minutes of a 2-hour show so far, and we're fortunate to be on air, man. So anything you say is probably fair game because it's way within bounds of anything that we've uttered in the last 20 minutes.
I'm just so happy that the audio and his mic were working first go. Like, I'm stunned. I feel great.
So
even though you were making jokes at my expense in our little Twitter thread,
so Shane's like, oh, B. Edwards in rare form already. How about Ravi's kiss of death last week with Napier, and then reality hit, and now he's back to something.
Wasn't it like 15, 20 minutes later? It's ridiculous.
Almost immediately.
Oh,
I will say,
yeah, pretty much.
I was like, B, why aren't you fading Florida State? That minus 26.5 is not nearly enough.
Yeah, I do think Notre Dame just scored again. Hey, B, do you remember when I flew out there to see you? We were originally going to watch John Jones. He ended up pulling up anyway when we saw him outside. But do you remember what the suspension was for that one?
Yeah, that was before he was going to fight Cormier, and it was for what he calls the picograms. It was steroids. He popped dirty for roids.
Okay. Ravi tried to make a cocaine joke, and I said, no, that was a different time.
I did make a joke.
It was a different fight.
Was that the time that he got popped for cocaine? And you're like, oh, easy there. And I was like, he got popped for cocaine. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
He did. He did get popped for coke. I think it was.
B, we realized what happened was he shared a straw with somebody for his Diet Pepsi, and it had remnant. It wasn't what John Jones did.
There we go.
Why are you using a straw that's been up somebody's nose? That's weird, man.
Because he didn't know. He's like, hey, man, you don't like drinking out of glasses. Just use this.
Sure. No, just like those picograms came from tainted meat, right?
Picograms.
Good thing we get along, isn't it?
Right?
Me and Ravi, we're like
that's right.
Peas and carrots. Wow.
All right, go.
I'm done. So we're off. We're back. You couldn't have been any further off than the Napier wagon. You're still off. I was shocked that as good as Texas is capable of being, you weren't all over that because that was a whooping.
Yeah, I mean, and that was shame on me for not being on that. I guess I was kind of holding out hope that maybe Lagway was going to play, but I should have known better. But I think he has a decent chance of playing this week.
Yeah.
And if he does play, it's nothing I've played yet, but I may play the over because Florida's secondary is all banged up. Nussmeier should have a big night, and if Lagway plays, I think we'll score some points. So, I mean, it's nothing I've played yet. I'll have to just wait and see till Saturday.
B, let's get to one of my favorites, the BYU Cougars, just a 3-point favorite against Kansas, who had the big upset last week against Iowa State. How you feeling about BYU?
I feel pretty good. I know I feel like every radio show and whatnot I've listened to, and some people I respect, love Kansas. They seem to be a very public and popular underdog this week, and I get it. They're playing better, and look, all their losses have been pretty much heartbreakers. I think 5 of them, I want to say, were one possession games, if I'm not mistaken. But I know, but BYU barely survived last week. But I mean, 3 or less at home and altitude. I got to go with BYU here. They're obviously undefeated overall, so undefeated at home, but 3-1 against the spread in 4 home games. They won by margins of 3, 22, 29, and 28. And Kansas is not very good defensively. I know Jalen Daniels is playing better, but in their 3 Big 12 road games, Kansas is giving up 32, 35, and 29 points. Their 4 overall road games, 0-4 straight up, 1-3 ATS. I got to take BYU -3 or 2.5. Actually, I think most books are 2.5.
Oh, I love it.
Let me jump to the Big Ten here because I'm sure not. I don't know how to cap Sparty, so that's why we leave it to the experts. But the line seems a little light at just 3. What'd you make Illinois and Sparty?
Yeah. Here's my Big Ten. I made Illinois 6.5. So yeah, it definitely looks light to me. And I like the Fighting Illini at home. I know Sparty, still got a chance to, get to a bowl game, which would be a pretty decent accomplishment on Jonathan Smith's first season. But I just think Illinois is better. I think they got a better quarterback. I know they're slumping here lately, back-to-back losses, but they've had 2 weeks to shake that off. And Altmaier's been good this year, man. 16-3 TDI&T ratio. I trust him more than Sparty's QB. I got to go Illinois -3.
We mentioned Iowa State earlier, coming off that loss to Kansas. They're a 9-point favorite at home against Cincy. How you feeling there?
Yeah, I like Cincy +9. If there's a 9.5, yeah, it looks like there's a couple 9.5s. If your number's 9.5, I'd buy the half point to 10 as long as it's only -120 juice. I mean, Cincy let another one get away last week. They had a 7-0 lead, 4th and 1 in the red zone, and they throw a 79-yard pick six. They ended up with a 436, 248 advantage in total yards on West Virginia, a 24-10 advantage in first downs. But West Virginia got 2 defensive touchdowns. Sorsby a couple of costly turnovers, but man, he's still been good overall this year. But Iowa State's lost back-to-back. They're an 0-3 ATS slide, and I think the Bearcats are going to keep this one close. Wouldn't be shocked if they won outright, but I'll go Bearcats +9, or if it's 9.5, I'd buy it to 10.
Yeah, so that's the first thing that you could say that may get the dander up of my partner because he is all in on Iowa State. What do you think's kind of happened with them as you've watched kind of this last third of the season?
Oh man, I haven't had bets on any of those 3 games, so I mean, I gotta, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't really watched a ton of that. I mean, I watched all the highlights, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I haven't watched enough of them.
I wonder if they've ran out of gas. Let's go to this kind of off the radar, but I like it because you're usually good at these. Louisiana and South Alabama.
Yeah, so look, South Alabama's got a stud quarterback in Gio Lopez, but he got a concussion last game. I scoured Twitter, the internet for information on him yesterday. There's just nothing to be found, or at least not since November 4th when Applewhite, I guess it was their first or second practice after it because they had an open date. said he was encouraged by his progress so far. So I'm going to assume Lopez is going to play, but regardless of that, South Alabama's defense is not good. 97th nationally in total defense, 123 out of 134 FBS teams versus the pass. And Louisiana's good, man, 8-1 straight up. I watched the game they lost because I had Tulane in that game. It was a good game. Louisiana's QB, Ben Woolridge, he's been awesome this year. 17-4 TDI&T ratio, 5 rushing touchdowns, 6 of the Raging Cajuns, 8 wins have been by double-digit margins. They're 5-0 in the Sun Belt. The 2 home games in the Sun Belt, they won by 10 and 36. I'll go Louisiana -7 to South Alabama.
All right, B, let's move over to the NFL. You got tonight's game, Commanders and Eagles. Any way you like to play that one?
Yeah, I'm going with Commanders plus 3.5. I actually bought it to 4. Just -120 juice. Heartbreaker last week, man. First time I've lost betting on the Commanders all year. I'm 7-1-1. And look, if Zach Ertz doesn't drop that easy ball over the middle, or if McCaffrey,
that's the Steelers, man. Watch out. Watch out.
I know. You had to feel fortunate to get that dub, though.
Oh, I felt good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just catching straight from Florida State on a bye week. You can't take one comment about the Steelers? Come on, man. Toughen up, Buttercup. Let's go.
Right. So Commanders have been underdogs 3 times, 2-0-1 ATS, 2 outright wins. And their last 5 games at Philadelphia, now we're talking about their last 5 years where they're not very good. They were 4-0-1 ATS with 2 outright wins. So they have success in Philly. Rivalry game, I think it'll go down to the wire. And I think we got the better coach. And I think we got the better quarterback. And I love Jalen Hurts, but I think we got the better quarterback and better coach. Give me the Commanders. And I also like their team total over 22.5. They are averaging this year. There we go. They're averaging 29 points per game, 3rd in the league. And Daniels is spectacular. So team total over 22.5. The weather's not going to be bad. Mid-40s, but no wind, no rain.
All right, how you feeling about this UFC card? I'm pretty pumped.
I'm pumped, but I don't really like many bets other than Eric Anders -115 against Weidman. Might be our last chance to fade Weidman. He had a great career.
He's shot.
Yeah, I was shot. I mean, he had to have that illegal knee to get the W in controversial fashion last time. He's shot, and Anders is. I was reading. I liked Anders anyway. But I was reading where he got sober like 14 months ago, and he is 2-1 in his last 3, and the loss was the fight of the night. And he's younger than Weidman. I like Eric Anders in that one.
What do you think happens? There's not a ton of value at, I don't know, he's 7-1. How do you think the fight goes with JJ and Miocic?
Jones inside of 2 rounds with a finish. I don't know if it's knockout or submission, but it will be ground and pound if it's knockout, I think.
Chandler have a aggressive stalker chance?
I think so, for sure. I mean, he almost knocked him out at the end of the first round, their first meeting. Yeah, actually, I may take Chandler. I may take him, although he's been off so long and he is old. But, man, he's so athletic. And Oliveira, he's getting toward the end as well. So I think that could go either way. I may take Chandler.
B, do you know any book that'll take my bet that Mike Tyson hits Jake Paul so hard he falls all the way off the internet?
Tyson may be on the take. I mean, are you afraid Tyson's on the take, B?
Not at all. I think the whole world's rooting for Tyson, and gosh, that would be wonderful. If he knocked that D-bag out of his senses, that would be so wonderful.
That's our guy, Brian Edwards from our Vegas Insider MajorWager.com. Thanks.
Right on par with the rest of the show, B.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you.
Right. Michael Bruntz coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. DB's left the building. He decided he didn't want to hang out with me anymore. No, he'll be right back here in just a second. But we are.
You sure it's just not a bad internet connection there?
Yeah, I don't think the internet connection makes DB disappear completely. I think it makes us all just fall off the air. But that's okay. We're here with our friend Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on?
How much? Did he have to go to the bathroom? Is that where he is?
No, I went to go get some fresh air. Have you ever been around your coworkers for so long you had to give yourself a 20-second timeout?
I work from home. My coworkers are 6 and 3, so yes, I understand.
Bless your heart.
What you're talking about.
So I'm glad you brought up your children, Bruntz, because we were having a question earlier on the show today.
Oh Lord!
And it's gonna be real confusing for you, but just roll with me here.
Ask him an acceptable term.
We were trying to figure out what the acceptable term was for, like, if
your derriere.
Yeah, for your behind. Like, what do you tell your kids to say if they have to talk about their behind?
Like at daycare or school for your 6-year-old.
I think we go bottom. That's what we.
Bottom's a good one.
Bottom is a good one.
Yeah.
We
very inoffensive.
One of the teachers at school always says to sit on your pockets, which I'd never heard that one before. That one was pretty good.
Bruntz, would you describe yourself as fairly moderate?
In what way, Damon?
What?
It's a loaded question this time of year.
I'm just getting hammered today. All right. So, what would be more acceptable if you were a third grade teacher?
Like the least offensive sounding word.
If a child said butt or booty?
I would accept booty before butt.
Thank you.
Why?
Thank you.
What do you guys? You guys were born too late.
Thank you. Also, Bruntz, this should be the last butt question of the segment.
Why, Bruntz? Why? I want to know why. I'm mad now.
I don't know. I think I'm just imagining my 3-year-old saying. I know you said it was a third grader, but like if a 3-year-old says it, it's kind of funny, right? Like, but
like, oh, my booty hurts.
But if you go with butt, it's a little bit. It feels a little bit more kind of straight over tackle, I guess. Like there's not much finesse to that, so I would go booty over butt.
It's got a little Bart Simpson to it, if we're being honest.
We occasionally go tush too.
Oh, tush
just makes me laugh.
Like a tush push.
Tush is fine.
Yeah,
tush is fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question on butts here, Bruntz. Have you ever heard of the term boonda?
Oh, what?
I'm going to take that as a no.
Boonda.
No, I'm too moderate apparently.
or not Portuguese enough.
I just needed a frame of reference, Bruntz. I don't know. Hey, you ever have those days, Bruntz, where you probably shouldn't have just got out of bed?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just getting crushed.
It's typically when your boonda hurts.
Wow.
Okay.
I give up.
Okay, Bruntz. That's all the butt talk for this morning.
Do you feel like you got the W?
I did. Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna take a victory lap here later. Bruntz.
Thanks a lot, Bruntz.
There's a football game this weekend. I'm not sure if you were aware.
Yeah.
Like, no, they don't play Jake Butts from Michigan. They play USC.
Oh, shoot. He sent me a
One-time
text the
Denver
other day.
Bronco Jake Butt. Yeah. Don't forget that.
It's wild out here.
It feels like it's been a very long time since Nebraska played a football game, as you can probably tell by our topic of conversation this morning. How are you feeling about going to USC this weekend?
I'm good. I'm feeling good about USC.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to what is apparently now Big Ten football in November is going to be sitting on a beach. Which I mean, there's been other years this time, late November, where it's like you're trekking the Happy Valley, so things could be much worse. But beyond that, I mean, I think there's is there more intrigue about this game than there was at the start of the season? Like, is that fair to say?
I would say yes. Although, Bruntzy, could I make the argument that we feel like this is more of a foregone conclusion?
You're talking like the result of the game?
I don't know. I haven't talked to one person that thinks Nebraska's going to win this game.
No, I mean, I mean intrigue. I'm not even talking about, what the score is going to be walking off the field. I just like going into the year, you're kind of like, okay, freshman quarterback, 5-star quarterback, what's this going to look like? like you just ramp up the intrigue by about 20 times when you add a new offensive coordinator, going into game 10. Like, I have no idea how this is going to look. It might look very similar, it might not, but I mean, I'm much more intrigued about this game and how things are going to go on the field than I was, on Sunday, I guess. But I mean, certainly, coming off the UCLA game. So I'm very excited for this one to see how it's all going to play out, and certainly, having the team on the other side of the field being USC, there's some intrigue there too.
Bruntz, we haven't talked about this a ton because, the Dana Holgorsen thing kind of ate the whole week up. But what's your level of confidence that Dylan Raiola is going to be able to play and relatively healthy?
Well, I think if there's a chance he can play, he'll play. I don't know. I mean, it's very Nebraska, right? Where you get a new offensive coordinator and you have to kind of design an offense potentially for your backup who does things much differently than your starter. I mean, that's just kind of the way things work, I guess, around here. But yeah, I mean, we'll hear from Matt Rhule here in a couple hours about kind of where things stand. My sense is there's probably going to be a little bit of gamesmanship there as well, with how he's going to address that. So we'll see. But I think if this were last week, I don't think he would have played. So we'll see if the extra time did him well. I mean, I know he didn't practice before Tuesday, so we'll see how that goes.
Who would you rather be emotionally, SC or Nebraska, and why?
Emotionally? Are we talking fans, or are we talking?
Yeah, I mean both. How would you have liked to have been both coaches in your pressers over the bye week? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
and I haven't even talked really about the sanctions that came down. And I know the 2022 wasn't on Riley's watch, but it hasn't been. You have a quarterback that hit the portal. Like, there's a lot. They're less than five. They're under 500. Like,
yeah.
Which press conferences would you have rather been having?
No, I mean the temperature feels much higher in Los Angeles. I mean, I think so. I had conversations with USC writers before the season started at Big Ten Media Days, and basically said, like, there's going to be games that you're going to play this year where you're going to be playing teams like Minnesota, and you're going to be smack dab in the middle of a 17-14 game in the middle of the third quarter, and you have no idea how you got there. And that's just life in the Big Ten. And I think USC especially, kind of expected to be able to walk right into the Big Ten and, kind of outgun teams and out-scheme them and out-athlete them and things like that. And I think they're kind of learning some of the lessons that Nebraska did when they started in the Big Ten. And I think those expectations probably did not help Lincoln Riley. Certainly the losing streak that they're on is not helping things. You're making a quarterback change, and I don't know. I mean, they need to get things turned around very quickly there, because that's not a patient place. And I think just from kind of listening to the conversations there, it's been a little rough. I mean, at least with the change at Nebraska this week, I mean, I don't think it reset things, but it certainly changed the conversation from what it was coming off the field against UCLA to what it is now.
Bruntz, between kind of just what your own thoughts are and talking to some of the USC people you're talking to, like, what's the overall perception of Lincoln Riley? Because you look at him and he's got this gaudy record overall, but then you look at the last 22 games and it leaves a lot to be desired. Like, I don't really know what to do with the entire body of work versus what it's looked like recently.
Yeah, I think there's my sense is there's a portion of the fan base that's growing a little bit tired of it and maybe not having the the success that they were expecting right out of the gates. I think there's some growing frustration there locally that they're really having a hard time keeping local talent home. Like if you look at recruiting classes and, the local talent in LA, a lot of them are not going to USC. I mean, a lot of them are going to Georgia. They're going to the SEC. And I know that's not helping things there. So, yeah, I mean, they need to turn things around. And then, you kind of had I believe the perception was that, you show up in the Big Ten, you're going to, run past all these, slow plotting teams. And that's not the reality. I mean, I think there's a lot of talent in the Big Ten, and there's a lot of teams that can show up and really push you around if they want to. I mean, if you look at the 4 teams that, came into the Big Ten this year, I mean, obviously Oregon, I think was, the way that they've recruited and the way that they coach it. I mean, I think they're as close to a Big Ten team as you're going to get. I assume UCLA would struggle. And, I think USC is also kind of in the same boat where, they're not good enough up front on both sides of the ball right now to go in there and win those like one score kind of close games. And I think you're seeing the results of that right now.
Hey, Bruntz, you're good with data and a little bit of a philosopher, even as a moderate. Have you allowed yourself to kind of extrapolate, right? Okay, what everybody did were these deep dives with Holgorsen and the run and shoot and his run pass ratio, and I kind of drilled it down to kind of pet plays and his quarterback. When you look at what you think Raiola brings to the table in partnership with Dana Holgorsen, where does your mind take you when you think of skill sets?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I've kind of picked up with him over kind of talking to guys that covered him at West Virginia and at different stops, he's going to fit what he's going to do to the personnel. And especially at West Virginia, it looked different at times year to year just based on who the quarterback was, who the playmakers were. And I think that's, when you kind of look at, okay, well, what's this going to look like for 3 games here and what can you realistically do in a short amount of time? I mean, I think he's going to accentuate what they've got. I think it's going to be, if I'm Ja'Cory Barney, I'm sitting there like, okay, this is going to be okay. And I think that's kind of what has stood out to me most in talking to people. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah.
I might be zooming out of the middle here, but
I got to follow up, so just let it ride. I like this.
No, let's help save me. What's your follow?
No, so my other thing is when you look at like talents, because people say, oh man, he's got a 4.5, 5-star quarterback who's super talented. Do you get into fit, or do you rest with the answer that you just were giving me? Like, hey, this will morph into what are my quarterback skill sets? Because you can make the case on paper this may be his most talented.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think the core of what a Dana Holgorsen offense is the kind of stuff that Dylan is comfortable doing. I mean, when you look at what he did in high school, a lot of the concepts are there. I mean, it's I think everybody sees Dana Holgorsen, you immediately jump to air raid, and that's not necessarily what he does. I mean, everybody kind of runs portions of that, and so I think there's familiarity there, and I think that should be an offense that should be fairly comfortable for Dylan, especially with some of the reads that are there. So I think he can make that work. I mean, I don't, I'm sure there's probably going to be some hiccups just based on verbiage and kind of, knowing what reads are and things like that. But I think overall it should not be an offense that is completely foreign to what Dana wants to do and what Dylan's done. I mean, there's probably also, let's face it, a little bit of benefit from Dylan having been at so many high schools. I mean, he was learning a new offense every year and having to get adjusted to that.
Which what no one has talked about so far.
Yeah, good call there, Bruntz.
Yeah, hey, thanks. So yeah, I mean, I think that's. I think it's. I don't think it's as big of a lift there as maybe what you might think. I mean, I'm not expecting wholesale changes, but I think there's going to be some wrinkles and some surprises in there that aren't going to be completely foreign to Dylan.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this week, including us, is what impact do you think Dana Holgorsen might have on the running game? We've talked a lot about Dylan Raiola and the passing game and all that. Like
we talked about
clock management and, even helping, like Rhule's mindset with having somebody to bounce things off of as a former head coach. But like how do you think he might be able to help improve a running game that seems like has never quite gotten to a point where we've been satisfied with it?
No, I mean, I guess it probably comes down to whether you believe it's, do you allow your guys to get into a rhythm? Is it, feel for when you call certain things? I think that will, be different, and I think that'll probably help Nebraska a little bit. And I don't think that there's, especially in the running game, I don't know that there's wholesale changes that you have to make. I mean, I think it's a tweak here, a tweak here, tweak there with kind of how you do things and block things. So, everybody kind of gets hung up on the air raid thing. He's always had really good running offenses. It's funny, like I was watching that 2010 Oklahoma State-Nebraska game the other night, and you've got diamond formation. They ran a little bit of power at times. Like it was just kind of everything. And Nebraska was kind of struggling to adapt to things. And I mean that's I think what the long-term picture can be. But yeah, and the other thing you kind of mentioned in the question, but the knowing when to take shots and being okay with being a little bit more aggressive at times, I think that's okay. I mean, I think Nebraska has to be able to get the ball down the field more. And even in the midst of this losing streak, they started to do that a little bit and had some success. I mean, I think you have to be able to do that. And I'm eager to see if you see a little bit more aggression with doing that over the last 3 games here.
Bruntz, let me ask you something. A lot of people give the advantage, especially emotionally, because it has been tumultuous these last couple of weeks for both programs, right? But they give the nod to SC because they just pull raw data statistically and they say, oh, SC plays better at home. They don't really look at whether they're winning or losing. They're just like, oh, they play better at home. Is it a thing where you think Nebraska, given where they're at right now, will be better away from Lincoln than in Lincoln when they see the Trojans?
I don't know.
It's at least a discussion, right?
Sure, it is. I think what scares me about saying absolutely is it's just been such a every game you kind of don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I pause a little bit, and I do have legitimate questions about how is Nebraska going to be for this game. I mean, maybe the helmet across the line of scrimmage gets you a little bit more dialed in than UCLA did. I don't know, but I mean I think just kind of the herky-jerky nature of the focus and the effort over the last 3 games. I think that's why I hesitate, and that's kind of why I'm kind of curious to see how they come out of the bye week and why there's intrigue around this game for me. Is that I don't know where a lot of Nebraska's at right now, because on the one hand you kind of have a little bit of a reset here. You've got a new coordinator. You've got this, I guess, for lack of a better word, a spark. But at the same time, you're also kind of fighting the here we go again type feelings of being in November and not being able to get that 6th win yet. So I don't know. I guess that's the very, very long meandering way to say I don't know.
Bruntz,
As a moderate, I thought you almost said gerrymandering. You said Mandarin.
Yeah.
I got you.
Gerrymander some effort.
Hey, there's like 7 people listening that will get that reference, but I'm dapping you from far away. Well,
and
well done for your range, Bruntsy.
3 of them are on the call right now. Bruntz, if you're looking for kind of indicators or benchmarks of this thing working with Dana Holgorsen on Saturday, are you looking for something specific like a point total or yardage or red zone conversions? Is it going to be more of an eye test thing? You just here for the vibes? Like, what is there something specific you're looking for?
Vibes. I mean, the vibes piece of it's like what Rhule said after Indiana, where it was like everything just feels really difficult. Mm-hmm. Like, if there's something that a thing or two Nebraska can find, you're like, this is what we're going to go to. This is something that we can lean on. That to me is progress, because they have not had that all season. I don't know if it's a point total or yards, especially this first week, but you kind of know it when you see it, right? And as the year has gone along, it's just felt a lot more difficult and more so than it needs to be. Looking for efficiency, crispness. Is Dylan getting the ball out quickly and rather than holding it and kind of, like he seems to have done the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, I think that's more of what I'm looking for in LA is just, the easier things looking like they're supposed to. And also, cashing in a few points when you get into the other side of the field, your opponent's side of the field, that would be progress in my mind too, because I mean, the Nebraska's inability to get points when they get into the opponent's territory it's just mind numbing how much they've struggled at that this year.
Bruntz, okay, so we had these kind of like these philosophical deals before we head out there, and then all of a sudden the game will unfold. How prepared are you emotionally to stay the course from the things that we just talked about, right? Because it sounds good, and then the actual game breaks out, and you have deadlines, and you have content. How balanced do you think you can be?
How moderate can I be? I think you gotta.
Some would call it fair and balanced. I'm not sure if that would.
Yeah. And we don't have deadlines on the internet. It's always a deadline.
Good point, Bruntsy. God, you sticklers.
But no, I mean, I think it's important to, and I think that's why that kind of goes with what I was saying about the vibes. Like, it might not be 100% what it's going to look like, and it's certainly not going to be perfect against USC. But if you start to see glimpses of progress, and I think that's what you have to be encouraged by. I mean, this is fairly unprecedented what Nebraska is doing with bringing somebody in from the outside at this point in the season to run everything. And I mean, I think you kind of have to remember that. But I mean, if you can show progress against USC, I think it sets up particularly well going into that last game at home against Wisconsin. I mean, I think that's the one where you got to be dialed in a little bit more. So I'm willing to be patient, and I think you kind of have to. The context for all of this happening, I think, is pretty important, because it's almost like you kind of need to just kind of set that bar kind of low, and at least for the first game, I think.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz. I don't know if we can call you a moderate anymore because you want Nebraska to be so progressive, but we will talk to you next week anyway.
Stick to sport.
Bruntz, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, MB.
All right. Yeah, see you guys.
We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, also KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get out to the casinos in Lincoln or Omaha. You can bet on nearly every major sporting event, but make sure you get to, it's the place we like to be, or Lincoln. Omaha, Lincoln, either way you want to go, they got you covered.
100%.
War Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. All right, DB, we got a good one tonight. We have a rare, good Thursday night matchup.
Yeah.
Commanders.
They are few and far between thus far.
Although last week was good, too.
And you know
it was a good game.
And you know who's on Thursday next week?
Who's that?
Yeah.
Does anybody care?
Oh, you guys are on a roll today.
No, it's fine.
What do you mean it's fine?
Everybody likes the Steelers, man.
Is that my voice? Is that my voice?
No, listen, it's Steelers Browns. Like, that's my, like, yeah, okay, you like the Steelers, that's cool, but it's the Browns.
It's at Cleveland. It should be, I mean, it'll be a good one.
They're 2-7.
They're 2-7.
They're a dumpster fire. It's a terrible team.
It's all right. We still think Stefanski's a good coach.
Terrible.
I think he's a good coach.
Stefanski or Dable?
Stefanski.
You taking Stefanski over Dable?
Yeah.
But you both think they're good coaches?
Yeah.
Even though
I think Dable's fine.
Even though they can't win games.
Wow.
I'm just asking. That's the argument. It's just tough situations, or like, I mean, Stefanski obviously got saddled with,
but he's had success. Let's not act like he hasn't.
Sure, I understand.
And I think
he got saddled with the Deshaun situation, which I'm not sure anybody can overcome.
Dable's had to overcome. Again, when you watch Daniel Jones throw the ball for more than 15 yards, do you ever think it's going to be complete?
I don't think it's going to be complete when it's less than 15 yards. I don't ever.
That's just foolishness.
No, I don't know. I don't. Every time Daniel Jones drops back, I'm like, nothing good's gonna happen here.
I like
not a single thing.
I think Dable's a good coach,
but you like Stefanski a little better.
Yeah, because he's proven he's won more games as a head coach.
That's true. You do have a Danny Dimes playoff appearance though for Dable.
Yeah, and that got him.
That guy gave
him the benefit of the doubt.
A lot of benefit of the doubt because I'm not sure. I think people look around the league and they're like, "Oh dear God, how'd you get that guy to the playoffs?"
Do you think they said, "Dear God"?
Yeah.
Dear Abby.
How in the boonda did you get this man to the playoffs?
See? He's doing too much. It's doing way too much.
I can't help myself. Commanders.
Fair warning, like on the way to Nebraska City, I'm going to be contemplating.
It's better than.
It's 52 minutes to think to myself, do I really like this guy?
It's better than being told to get off your booty.
Yeah, you don't want to think too much about that, DB.
Yeah.
Anybody that
I still don't
you don't want to be just
I know
around.
what Bruntz said. I still don't think booty is any more.
I think it's less offensive than butt.
No.
Although bottom is a good one. He brought up bottom, which I think is a very inoffensive term.
So let's just go with pants pockets.
Yeah, sit on your pockets.
That was a good one. That's
That
a
was
very
good.
That's
That
a
was
very
good.
teachery thing to say. Hey,
But-
sit on your pockets.
Yeah, but the thing about it is nobody's gonna say, "Hey, my pockets hurt."
True. Yes, it only works in a very specific situation.
Yeah. So,
But it is a very teachery.
Sure, it's creative, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not
Doesn't make it purposeful.
not useful in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
We got Commanders plus 3.5 tonight.
At first blush, probably an Eagles guy.
Yeah, Eagles at home. I'm just still trying
The
to.
Commanders. Now this is. Call me crazy. I could see the Commanders losing this. I would not be shocked. I'm not forecasting this.
Mhm.
It wouldn't shock me if they lost by 10 plus.
Okay, so you think it's more likely that the Eagles win by multiple scores than that the Commanders cover?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Here's my question though, because I did not see this coming. How is all of a sudden everything's cool with Nick Sirianni?
Because he wins.
I guess, but
I said this like 6 weeks ago.
you did. We were talking about this like
He's the only coach.
it's wild.
He's the only coach that I can think of currently
Mhm.
that when he wins, you contemplate whether you should still fire him or not.
Yeah, because they were winning then too when
No,
we were
I'm-
having these conversations.
No, I know.
That's the weird thing.
It's just weird. There's just this weird vibe around them.
I think I have to give their whether it's ownership, front office, whatever, a decent amount of credit there, because it would have been really easy to fire him at multiple times over the
And
past.
he's got a great ownership group.
12
Their
months.
front office is incredible.
Yeah, that's got to be one.
They belong in the upper echelon of NFL.
That's got to be one of the most functional franchises in the league.
Yeah, he's got an aggressive ownership group. They spend money. I think they're forward thinking.
Went out and got Saquon.
Yeah.
But, I mean, honestly, distressed asset might be a little aggressive for Saquon, but he certainly wasn't at peak value for what they got him at.
Yeah, and what they lock him in, it was 15 they sell that, right?
Like 2 for 15, 2 years for 15. He's making under 10 a year. I mean, he's making less than Christian McCaffrey. He's making less than
I think the mil per. Yeah, that's
like
right.
7.5 per
because of the guaranteed money.
And I think
because he's 15 mil a year.
Yes, yeah. But so they went out and got him. It was that dude sort of has 9 lives a little bit.
Sirianni?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
he's been allowed to have some public snafus.
Yeah, and listen, a public feud with your quarterback who already got paid doesn't end up with you keeping your job 9 times out of 10.
Not typically.
9 times.
But again,
yes.
If you go back to like how the whole thing happened, I felt like Sirianni handled it like a pro. It was Jalen that kind of undermined him.
He's a little bit of a baby. He acted like a little bit of a baby.
At the tail end of it.
I will say it is kind of ironic that 2 of the best run franchises are in the same state.
Oh, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Pittsburgh and Philly.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little ironic.
Yeah.
It's coincidental. It doesn't mean anything, but it's kind of funny.
Well, you remember Keystone Cops came about because they were good with larceny and stealing.
Booty?
Not pirates. Not pirates.
And can you say tail end?
You can say tail end.
Okay, so is it just
rear
me
end?
Or
rear end. I think this is Shane's fault. I moved on.
A little bit too enamored.
Yeah. Well, you know what they say about Shane.
Relax. We've been skirting by.
I don't even know what the FCS is.
I mean, Gorman already had to bail me out once.
No, that's the FCC, Shane, not the FCS.
No, I would play the Eagles.
Play the Eagles minus the 3.5. I know you get a little uncomfy with the off of a key number there though.
Yeah, no, I don't. Under a key number.
Oh, okay, you don't mind if it's over the key number.
Yeah, like I'm not scared by a 7.5 or.
But you don't like a 6.5 or a 2.5.
I don't like a 6.5 or a 2.5.
Because you think Vegas is telling you something.
Yep.
You're like, hey, it's a little indicator. I don't like that.
Yeah.
You can stay away from that one.
Again, I always say this, and I this is like a Stu Manji thing or somebody, but my man RDK, I bet you 7.5 covers more than 6.5.
Probably.
Anecdotally, that's what I would think. I would bet you 3.5 covers more than 2.5.
That I could buy that. I could buy that. Stu Manji, or if somebody with numbers is listening, can you figure that out for us?
Do you know how much? I mean, you get those numbers.
Oh, that guy's it
all the time.
Those are probably the most common numbers are 2.5, 3.5, 6.5, 7.5, right? Yeah. And then occasionally, especially when you get to college, you get like a 9.5, 10.5, right? But NFL, you don't get double-digit lines very often.
So I saw a college 10.5 last night, and you almost never see that.
Yeah? Yeah,
no, it was smooth sailing. It was, who played Eastern Michigan? Oh, Ohio.
Yeah.
It was 10.5.
Yeah. That is a little smooth sailing. Well,
yeah, they blew them out, right? I think I changed the channel when they made it. Was it the Pick Six? It was
the Fighting Frank Soliches.
I think I turned the channel when it was 28-10.
Yeah. I was dialed in on basketball last night. I was all hoops for me.
Did you flip over to the NBA after Nebraska and Creighton were in hand?
I watched a little bit of Memphis Lakers
because Nebraska's interesting.
Man. I think they're a good team. They still can't shoot though.
It's wild. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah,
because I'm in agreement.
Yeah, like I think they look. This is one of the most.
They look like they know what they're doing, but they can't really shoot.
This looks like kind of the most. We talk about this a lot with Satterfield and the offense or whatever. This kind of looks like the most cohesive basketball teams that Fred Hoiberg's had.
Yeah.
Like the way it was put together makes sense. I still have a really hard time trusting a team that's not going to shoot over 30% from three.
They may be able to get stops, though.
For sure. But they might have to win ugly.
They may be able to get stops.
They may have to win pretty ugly this year because at a certain point, especially when you get into Big Ten play, you're going to have to make a few more shots.
Yeah, 100%.
Or you're not going to be able to let anybody score at all.
Although I don't love the Big Ten so far.
No, it's just kind of a grind.
The whole Aiken thing against Kansas has me shook. That's the biggest game to date, and he just I'm cool being on the bus.
Don't need to be here.
Let's not shoot it.
He's kind of been weird throughout his career, if we're going to be honest here. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Welcome back as we wrap up the show on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
That's a good word for it, back. We'll leave it at that.
Baby got?
Big back. That's what they say on the internet now when you eat a lot. Big backs. Hey.
Like Big Macs? Big Mac sacks?
No, focus.
I'm just playing word association games right now.
Dial in. Now I forgot exactly what I was going to say. I was going to talk about foaling when we were there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, roll it back.
Lean back.
I can't remember what I was going to say. This really starting to aggravate me because normally the last 3 days have been a handful to compartmentalize the nonsense.
Yeah.
Usually I can coordinate the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
testing you.
I'm letting it win. and it's not a good feeling.
Get competitive, DB. Lock in.
Yeah, so I don't know what I was going to say.
Talk about foaling?
Yes.
We had a good time.
No, it's a great place.
It's fun. It's huge.
Yeah.
Enormous.
And I'm only going to kind of promote things that I believe in. I'm not a big pay-for-play guy.
Yeah.
I'm going there.
Oh, 100%.
Just like I'm rocking game day.
Dude, it's super fun. And it's like a little harder than I was expecting because it's like a little further away.
So, the thing that makes it competitive is the bowls are good, but they're not what I'm used to. So you have to calibrate.
Yeah.
It's why you thought I was so awful at throwing bags. I still can't believe you had the nerve to just say,
Where are you aiming?
Where are you aiming at?
I mean, you threw one and it hit directly in the middle between the two boxes. So I literally didn't know where you were aiming at.
I don't even think he needed to share the details. Were you kind of getting the gist of the point that I wasn't good at the bags?
I mean,
good morning again.
There's a video that everybody's going to see. So
did that make the cut?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what happened.
That'll probably end up being a gift.
It was.
It hit right in the middle.
It did. It like split them. And I was like, I legitimately didn't know which side you were throwing to.
It's fine.
It's fine. No, it's also like the first couple throws I thought are easy because you have all the pins you're aiming at. But when you've only got a couple left, like it gets pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Because you got to be on.
I almost got a 7-10.
Oh, you weren't there when I picked up the split. So it was it was an accident.
I don't even believe it. You probably threw the ball sideways.
You can ask KB. He saw it, but it was an accident. I'll own that. So I threw it.
Kyle gets a nickname?
I don't know. I call him KB sometimes.
Okay, let's go with KB. I like Kyle.
But Kyle's cool.
Goat. And he puts up with do you think he just rolls his eyes when we have public shoots?
Oh, 100%.
How about how he low-key just babysits? No, stand here. No, don't. No,
he has to.
Come here. No. Just quick now.
No, walk that way. Yeah. Hey, that was too long. Let's try it again. Yeah, 100%. If he wasn't there for that, we'd be there all day, and we'd never get it done. Because we'd just be like, hey, let's play more bags.
I might have to give him a hug next time because he put up with the whole game day one, too, which I know he was traumatized.
He was.
He's like, I can't believe you're an adult. I'm like, no, I really am.
I mean, by age, yeah. But no, so I threw one and it hit a pin that was in front of the split.
It was it was
an accident. Yeah. I'm admitting it was an accident, but I did pick it up. So the pin bounced one way, the pin that was already on the ground, and the ball bounced the other way, and they just happened to pick up the split for me.
Pictures, it didn't happen.
I don't know if we got that one on camera, but
hey, so I'm going to ask each one of you guys a question since I want to talk about the NBA here for a second.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to ask you about hockey because you know nothing, and I'm going to ask Shane about the NBA because he knows nothing.
Easy on my Winnipeg Jets there, bud.
So, Shane, do you have more faith in the Cleveland Cavaliers being 13-0 than you do the start that the Winnipeg Jets are having?
It's a great question.
I know you know nothing about. You can't even name me a player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Can you?
No.
They're 13-0.
LeBron James in 2010.
LeBron James. He wasn't even in Cleveland in 2010. He was in Miami.
Safe.
Sorry,
that was the year too.
1, 2, 3.
Which one?
Repeat the question once more. So then
more belief in the Jets start, Winnipeg, or the Cavaliers start.
Jets are I'll go with the Jets.
Do you believe more in the Cavaliers start or the Winnipeg Jets start?
So I'm going to say, based on my context here, you told me that the Winnipeg Jets would be entertaining, but you didn't think they would be that good or this good.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to say that that's maybe a little bit inflated.
Now they're good now.
Sure. But 15-1 is aggressive.
Yeah.
I will say I believe more in Cleveland. They were good last year. They've got a good young core like Mobley, Donovan
When they
Mitchell,
all play.
Darius Garland. Like they've got a good young core. Jared Allen's a nice like fourth piece there. Like the Cavs are good. If they're healthy, they're good. They're not obviously 13-0 aggressive, but they could be, especially with like the Bucks struggling, the Sixers struggling, they could be a top couple seed in the East.
Okay.
Like
So
the Cavs are real.
So it's funny how you guys both gravitated towards the sport you follow.
Well, the Jets.
He went with Winnipeg because he knows more about hockey.
Yeah.
You went with the Cavs because you know more
100%.
about the NBA.
The Jets owned the Avs last year.
Yeah.
They-
So let's
they-
ask
they-
the guy
they
that fancies
waxed them.
himself as
Benny.
a connoisseur of both sports.
Yeah, hey, what do you think, DB?
The Jets, Winnipeg's more indicative.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think Cleveland's really good.
No, I think they're good.
Yeah.
They're not as good in the East as Winnipeg is in hockey.
So I think this has as much to do with the East, the rest of the East being down.
Well, they got to get healthy, right?
Yeah.
And Milwaukee's bad.
Milwaukee's bad. I don't know what to do with Philly because you can't say like.
What do you do with Indiana?
I think Indiana's going to be around 500. I like
Everybody, Indiana, this is the year. And
No,
every
it's
year
not. This is
they're
exactly who they
about-
are.
They're about the same.
This is just who they are. I like a lot of their pieces. I'm a big Halliburton guy. I'm a big Sabonis guy. But this is what they're going to be.
I'm
Now,
surprised you like Halliburton as much as you do because of his shooting prowess.
Yeah, I just really liked the way he played. Well, I liked the way he played at Iowa State.
Doesn't turn the ball over.
Doesn't turn the ball over. And so here's the problem. This is why I have
By the way, this Shane, this segment is Heath's fault.
100%.
This is all Heath's fault.
So the reason I'm a little enamored with Halliburton is because when the Warriors picked Weissman, they could have gotten Halliburton. And so
you love you some revisionist history.
I do. I mean, I look at what could have happened, right? And so I kind of
You're still on the Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase thing,
dude. Have you like Penei Sewell every week does something where I'm like, what?
Jamar Chase is pretty good.
Jamar Chase is really good. There's a lot of really good wide receivers. There's more good wide receivers than there are guys like Penei Sewell.
You know.
Am I wrong?
You know, it'd be a good fight.
What?
You and Husker X's and O's. Because I kind of like the Detroit Lions offensive line as the best in the league, and he likes the Chiefs. And I give the nod to the Lions because of the tackles.
See,
even though he may have the nod guard center guard, even though the Lions guard center guard is fantastic.
Yeah, so here's the hard. I obviously can't say he has a good offensive line. I'm not arguing that. I have a hard time.
He said good. They're top 3 in the league.
Right, but I have a really hard time separating. Like, Patrick Mahomes can give you so much help, like in terms of him moving around the pocket, him navigating.
And they get Pacheco back.
Like, he helps your offensive line a ton. So I have a really hard time separating that.
At least I think they get him back.
Where at some point, let's hope so.
No, he's cleared.
I know, but
he could be ready to go this week.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Let me see it.
I bet he plays.
You think so?
Yeah. It was a tough one. I bet he plays.
But that's where I have a hard time separating because Mahomes helps you out so much there. And I am fully obsessed with Penei Sewell. The stuff that he does at tackle is bonkers.
He came here for the Owl, and he gave one.
Yeah,
of the best
I was there.
You were sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
He gave one of the best speeches ever.
Yeah, and I think that's part of my infatuation with him is having heard him go through his speech and talk about his family and all that.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
And Cristobal was there with him.
I was just glad you could multitask while watching Creighton.
Yeah, watching Creighton lose to Georgetown. Stupid.
How do you remember that?
Because I'm still mad about it. Georgetown sucks always. I think I had money. I think I had money on it. I think that's why I remember. But
jeez, degenerate Ravi.
They
were pretty good in like '84.
Man, they play so bad at Georgetown during the stretch. Anyway, doesn't matter. But so yeah, I think that's part of my little obsession with Penei Sewell too, is just kind of having seen him a little bit and heard him and hear about his backstory and his family a little bit, which was super cool. But he does stuff that other offensive linemen can't do.
Yeah. Let me go back to the NBA real quick.
Yeah.
Relative to their record, and you may give me the Chet Holmgren caveat. More indicative, the OKC start or the Cavs start? Because most people liked OKC heading into this one. And by the way, we'll talk to Jessica Cootie tomorrow, who is you ask her about OKC.
Big Thunder fan?
Oh, yeah.
I think OKC is more indicative. They were really good last year. They're going to be really good this year. I think they can weather the Chet Holmgren thing. It's 2 months, maybe 3 to get fully back healthy. I think they've got enough talent to get through that. They're super young, super talented. And as much as I like Cleveland, I think their record is a lot to do with the fact that outside of Boston, there's not really another good team in the East right now.
Well, this is probably more of a Ben McLaughlin question, but
Benny Mac?
Can Charlotte win with ball playing like this?
I don't know if Charlotte can win at all.
Do you know what he's going without looking? Do you know what he's going for a night? And I'm a total junkie.
31.
30. 29-9.
Yeah. Like I don't know.
His shot selection
horrifying.
is atrocious.
Notice how I talked about how I worry about FOMO with Halliburton. I do not worry about FOMO with the Warriors pick and LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
So the real question is, can you win with LaMelo Ball? That's the real question. Because he's playing like he's still at Chino. I'm surprised I haven't seen him pull up from behind half court yet just for funsies.
That's not the real question. You know the real question is either Buddha or Booty or Bunda.
I'm so out on you, Shane.
That's the real question.
I'm cutting you out of my life.
The real question is, did you see Wemby drop 50 last night?
He's nice.
Dude.
He's nice.
He had 8 threes. He is 7'5".
Talk about a unicorn. Or is he a narwhal?
Like he's a narwhal.
Certainly not a dodo.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We'll be back tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.